To the pylon, Harrison's got it, flag out, touchdown signal.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Look at that, he just popped free, and he's gone. One man can catch him, only one, and that's Frankie West. Not to be, 96 yards, it's a touchdown. Braylon Allen's first of the year.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Bijan Robinson, who's been on a tear, lines up behind Thompson. They fake it to him and pitch it out to the perimeter. And that's Xavier Worthy. The talented freshman's off and running. It's a sprint. They won't catch Worthy. Texas touchdown on the opening play. 75 yards.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Shovel pass. Here's Sanders. A burst of speed. Rocket Sanders steps on the gas. A foot race. Touchdown. 73-yard liftoff for Rocket Sanders.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Pokey Wilson in motion. It's Benson. Benson, his second touchdown tonight. 15 yards for Trey Benson.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
A lot to get to today. Something from Washington State on their budget freeze, at least temporarily. UCLA and, well, just nothing major, but we'll get into maybe their finances. Also, Northwestern president discusses the Big Ten and whether or not he even wanted USC and UCLA and perhaps what else down the road. We'll have that. Plus, the NCAA with a bill that they're trying to get done. Steve Berkowitz, USA Today Sports, will join us today at 4 o'clock. We've got a lot to get to and also share some information and memories of one of our great viewers. All of you are great viewers, and Kim Coulter in Arizona sent me some pictures. We'll use those for you and share some memories of his down the road in this show today. Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW every weeknight, and brought to you by
Rooftop Innovations.
Right behind us, the big image on the screen behind us. But let's get to this. Baylor's Dave Aranda after the spring game. Remember, he said they would have a decision on the quarterback. It's taken a while. Today he held a press conference. Here's Craig's tweet as soon as Aranda made it happen. Says that they've named Blake Shapen the starting quarterback. And Sawyer Robertson, the transfer from Mississippi State, took the news well. Loves Baylor. Will continue to get better. Aranda looks for him to continue working on his ownership and consistency. The future's bright for him. Aranda today met with the media, and I heard him say this as he was walking out the door. He's going to be in Fort Worth tonight for what is an alum-type dinner and get-together, and wanted to make sure that the local media heard this news first about who is the quarterback, at least for now, and going into the 2023 season. Craig was there, Jack was there, I was there, and Craig, your thoughts initially, not a surprise, but your thoughts about the decision now that it's official.
Yeah, well, we knew something was up when they announced this media session yesterday. I mean, there was no real reason for them to do that outside of the kindness of their hearts, which is, certainly possible with Brent Ingram and the, folks over there. We do appreciate the time whenever we do get it, but I couldn't have been alone in thinking, like, they must be announcing something, or he must be, like, ready to say something about the quarterback spot. Because if he wasn't ready to say it today, were we all just going to show up and just, like, I mean, y'all had to expect that, right?
Yeah,
like,
when I first saw it, I said, yeah, he's finally going to let us know.
So I think we all kind of assumed that, and sure enough, after he had a little bit of an opening remark, he got the first question about the quarterback spot and delivered that information there, and I can't say that I'm surprised. I mean, this was my expectation all along, was that Blake Shapen would be the starting quarterback entering next year. I just wasn't sure when they were going to do it, when they didn't do it right after spring. I thought that might be like a post-spring game type of announcement, and then here we are, and it's like 4 or 5 weeks later, and, we hadn't heard anything, so I thought, okay, well, maybe they're going to take it into the fall. But, they decided not to, and I'm super appreciative, first of all, that Dave Aranda even thought about the fact that he's going to go break that news later on the night to some alumni, and he decided to let us know since we cover them on a daily basis. Like, that was very thoughtful of him to take us into account like that. But, yeah, not surprised. I think this is the right move. If Sawyer Robertson had been clear away a better quarterback throughout spring ball, had outperformed Shapen in the spring game, had he left no doubts, then, that's understandable. But that wasn't the case. I mean, he performed well. He did what he was supposed to do. He got better along the way. There were a lot of positive remarks about him. But there was nothing that led you to believe that he was just a far superior, or even just point blank, just a better quarterback right now. He's still learning the system. He's still somewhat of a young guy. He's in a different offense than he was in these last several years, because it wasn't just at Mississippi State with Mike Leach. It was also his high school running the air raid. So, he is adjusting to some things. And so, there's just little deals like that added up, and with Shapen's experience at the helm as well, I just figured Shapen's going to be the guy to start things off. And I think that's cool because, if he doesn't perform, sink or swim, then you pivot and Sawyer Robertson's your guy. But I felt like for Sawyer to be the guy, having just come in a few months ago, he really would have had to have wowed them and been the clear-cut guy to get the nod. And then I think that would have left you in a really weird position potentially. Not that Shapen would really have a lot of time to go anywhere, but like I said previously when we've had these conversations, he could still just decide, all right, I'm going to play baseball now, Whereas with this way, he starts, he plays until they don't feel like he's deserving of the spot anymore, and then it's Sawyer. But the reverse way, I think, could have gotten a little bit more complicated unless Sawyer was just so much clearly better. So makes sense, and looking forward to see what Shapen can do.
We will hear from Aranda on part of the decision-making or other decision-making. Paul, your reactions to Blake Shapen. If you would have said, okay, you lose whatever you have left on the decision, I would have put everything on Blake Shapen because to me the odds were that he would be the guy. That doesn't mean that there aren't some tweaks along the way and maybe a decision that can surprise us. But this is probably the safe decision. And by the way, Blake Shapen and Baylor think this is the right decision. Of course, the coaching staff too.
Yeah, I think this is where they are. I mean, look, Sawyer Robertson's been here for a semester at this point. That's it. So this offense and the one he came from with Mike Leach are drastically different. And I think he performed well enough overall that he didn't even have to, you can have that discussion where maybe he's moved into a conversation about the starting quarterback, but realistically, Blake Shapen has a better grasp on the offense. He's been in it for multiple years now, and that's who you need to start the season with, and you need to start the summer workouts with that guy, with that intention right away, right? So I think that's good. I do think, though, that they're in a better situation if and when Blake Shapen gets injured, in that I think Sawyer Robertson might be able to run the offense a little bit more fully than they were comfortable with Kyron Drones last year for whatever reason. So I think that they can maybe hit the ground running a little bit better should there be an injury to Blake Shapen, which they have to be really prepared for because he has been the starter for 2 stretches during his career, and he's been injured in both stretches.
Well, let me tell you this. The Baylor fan base, how much you want to bet, and here's one of the chats from Lance. Shapen was the number 9 QBR out of 10 teams in the conference. If Aranda won't pull him last year, what makes you think he will this year? Seems like no matter how bad he is, Aranda will just allow it. And that's what a lot of people thought maybe at the end of 2020, the COVID year, 2-7, that ran Charlie Brewer basically into the fans' dungeon. with all the visceral, I guess you could say, an anger towards Charlie Brewer with the loyalty of Dave Aranda. So there's one of the comments in the chat. Thanks to Lance. Appreciate, Lance, you watching, and one of our sponsors, by the way, of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if he doesn't perform well, then you've got a clear-cut number 2 guy that you feel pretty confident about. And I don't know that you could have said that about Kyron Drones last year. We don't know where Kyron Drones was in the development stage, right? I mean, here's a guy who, I don't know, I think some people, not Lance necessarily, but some people probably would have predicted when he went to Virginia Tech he'd be the starter, huh? And he's not. So clearly he's not ready to be the starter in Blacksburg either. And so there's, some development that still has to take place there. With Sawyer Robertson, there's some development that still has to take place there. And Blake's just further developed. And you have who you have, Like, you don't just get to go and say, well, I don't like this guy. I want something different, like it's a vending machine or something. I mean, you recruit and try to get as many good choices as you possibly can. But, I mean, Blake Shapen's their best option right now. And you may not like that, and that's understandable. You may feel like they should have somebody better. But he is their best option. And, I know that last year left a bad taste in people's mouths, but players can improve. They can learn. They can grow. And I know there's some parts of his game that, people feel like aren't necessarily areas that can grow exponentially or be night and day from what they were. And you know what? That's part of what they'll have to deal with. And so I think we'll see them go out there at the beginning of the year. He'll know what he's doing. He'll be the most well-prepared quarterback they have on the roster, should be, and you hope he'd be. And, if he doesn't perform out the task, then I think that they eventually do make the call to move off of him. But I just think it makes more sense to do it this way than to throw the young guy in there and then just, see how he does. And then what happens, because that's my thing, is like if Sawyer Robertson goes in there and like 2 games in, he's like, 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, well, then what? Then you're begging for Blake Shapen all of a sudden, aren't you? So I like that you're kind of protecting Sawyer. You're not keeping him behind glass or anything, but you just got him waiting in the wings and learning. And, if he needs to be called upon, they'll call on him. I don't have any doubts about that. I think Dave Aranda knows, too, like this isn't like he's not on a hot seat of any sort, but he's also not stupid. And so I don't think he's going to, trot Blake Shapen out there game after game after game if it's not looking good and it's on him, and not pivot if he has the opportunity to do so. Because, last year, some of that was on him. Not all of it was, though.
No, it wasn't.
Not all of it was, and he took all of the blame, though.
Just like 2020, it wasn't all on Charlie Brewer, but the offense was so inept that everybody, of course, points to the quarterback, who gets too much credit, also too much blame. From Chuck, and then we're going to get to what Aranda actually said about the 2 quarterbacks with Blake Shapen and Sawyer Robertson. Baylor will have another losing season with Shapen starting. Scotty B, Chuck, let us wait and see what happens. Before he got dinged up early last year after a nice start, he was really tremendous at the end of 2021. And then, of course, Gary Bohannon started in the Sugar Bowl, who had came back from after he had been injured. What was it, ankle against TCU when Shapen came in and Kansas State hamstring. Shapen came in and really finished well and played incredible in the Big 12 championship win against Oklahoma State.
No, I mean, I get the angst and stuff. I get that he doesn't have, like, some huge fan base, man. This is so reminiscent of, like, Charlie Brewer. It's like people just dig their heels in on somebody and refuse to believe that this person's capable of performing well, and I'm just not there yet. I was there at the end of Charlie's tenure because we had seen enough. Like, we had seen all we needed to see. We had, like, multiple seasons of proof to say, like, all right, he's tapped out. We've seen Shapen for a little over a season. So I'm not ready to – I know he's not going to turn into Joe Montana, and he's damn sure not going to turn into Patrick Mahomes. Like, you have the skill sets you have, but I do think he can improve in some areas, and I don't think he's got to go out there and win games by himself either. I think that he's got a better supporting cast around him on paper, and I know that doesn't mean anything necessarily, but I'm willing to give him a chance, and obviously the coaches are as well. But, yeah, like, look, I'm not going to sit here if it's week 3 and he's struggling. I'm not going to sit here and just, like – hold the line. I mean, I'll call it like y'all do and say, no, we got to rip him out of here, and they got to give Sawyer Robertson a chance. But I just don't think right now to start next season, like, it has to be Sawyer Robertson or it's a world of trouble.
And I don't know if you have to make a decision right now, which is also a part of it, but he did, and he said it. And this is a couple of minutes long with Dave Aranda explaining the decision on Blake Shapen being told he was the top quarterback in the depth chart room or in the quarterback room.
Have you decided on a starting quarterback? We have, yeah. We had a talk with both Blake and Sawyer, I think, the week after the spring game, and so we named Blake the starter. And I had a really good talk with Sawyer and Blake at that time. And, the reasons for all of that, twofold. One is I thought, Sawyer really progressed and got better at the end of spring. I think things settled down for him and everything. And I have to imagine he's going to continue to get better. And so, in talking with Sawyer, it's like, hey, man, way impressed with you. Your future here is really bright. Hey, it's a big old thing. Just take it one step at a time and keep your head down. You're going to be great. With Blake, like his consistency and his overall improvement was way impressive. And then his leadership and the growth there was impressive. And, I'd have to, from y'all's perspective, I can see in that spring game where it probably, could have been this or could have been that. And I think overall, the spring with Blake was really good. And his leadership was much improved. And so, I think he earned it, would be one. And two would be, I think moving into the summer and just kind of into fall camp is that we want to help solidify with Blake that, hey, this is your team. You've done all the work, you've earned it. We just talked about kind of being in a pit and kind of rising up. And I think that's the whole thing. I think, for me, how many times has that been me, And then you look at our players and you just, when guys are in that position, to give them the opportunity to climb out that thing and be the new them. And I think that's what Blake's doing, and I'm way proud of him. And so want to give him the stage to be able to assert himself completely. He's the guy, this is his team, take us into summer and fall, give us the best shot to start it off. So excited for that. I thought talk with all of them both went well, and talking to Sawyer, I guess, hey, how you feel with all of it? And he goes, Coach, I love Baylor, it's where I want to be. You're going to continue to see me get better, and we all knew that, that's the case, and I'm sure that we will see him continue to get better.
All right, that's Dave Aranda this morning at the bank on the campus at Baylor University, where you could see all the construction, the indoor being extended, and, of course, the football ops building right there on the Brazos, and it's just stuff everywhere. So we appreciate, again, the time. We have Grayson coming up after this segment. We'll break and come back with Grayson as he and Craig did Bearcast today that will air throughout the afternoon and also the next few days.
Yeah, you see how close the indoor is to the bank? That was kind of wild.
Yeah.
It's like it's right on top of each other.
The parking is going to be, always was a challenge, and now becomes even more so of a challenge with it less space to park your car, which used to be an area in front of it.
Yeah, it's just it's a little more jam-packed, a tight fit there near the bank and the indoor, because they're extending the indoor for those who know what I'm talking about there. But, it was interesting to see the progress they've made there just in the last 5 or 6 weeks since spring ended, because they've added like another 20 yards to that thing or whatever. But cool to see that. And, look, I definitely understand the doubters and those who are not like super amped up by today's news, but it's a big decision. I think Dave Aranda is a smart guy. Jeff Grimes is a smart guy. Everybody else involved in that decision are smart football people. And I think a big important thing Aranda said there was, I can understand from a media perspective and y'all just seeing the spring game and having an opinion, but he did watch him for 15 whole practices, and so did Bell, and so did Grimes, and so did everybody else. So they are working with a more complete picture. We're working with like a corner, and then, pretending like we know how the rest of the painting goes. They've got the full meal deal in front of them that they're working with. So you have to trust that. If you trust the coaches, then I think it'll make you feel a little bit better. And if you don't, you don't. And we'll see soon enough. Right around the corner, the season's coming. So, he's going to sink or swim, but he will be the guy that's in the pool first.
A lot of good stuff on the chat room about that, and we will have Grayson, as I mentioned, in a minute to discuss a few things, and also some other college football notes, including this about Washington State. This from Brett McMurphy, Washington State President Kirk Schultz, saying that the athletics will have, their athletic department will have temporary freeze on all current and future vacant positions until further review, as well as a pause on non-essential travel, purchases, and new professional development because of significant decrease in Pac-12 revenue distribution as a result of overpayments from one of the conference media members. That's the Comcast $50 million. Relocation of the Pac-12 headquarters out of San Francisco exceeded budget projections. Additionally, Washington State University projects the Cougar Athletics exceeded its expenses or expenditures for the year due to inadequate documentation of revenues and expenses. That's not the first time this has ever happened, but it's interesting because Kurt Schultz has been very much open about his thoughts about the Pac-12 and the future and the commissioner and the media deal. But they're not the only one that's ever had a freeze on this, and not just because it was 1 year of COVID or two, but also because sometimes things, well, you gotta tighten the belt.
Yeah, this is interesting to me because I'm wondering how many other, and particularly the Pac-12, how many athletic departments are tightening the belt because of this? How many are they were able to come through it, and what that means in regards to projecting out what their future earnings are going to be and where this money comes from. And do you have to take do you project it as you take this hit all at one time, or do you spread it out over some time? I don't know. I'm not in charge of finances anywhere, so it's not like I could tell you that definitively. But this is telling about the state of college athletics right now, and the reason that there is, especially a couple years off of the pandemic year, in the Pac-12 where they only played 4 or 5 games in that season, that there are some economic shortfalls that they're just now starting to feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a good number of people who all kind of paused on dunking on the Pac-12, which was good to see, and being clear on what the story is reporting. It's not reporting the downfall of the Pac, although if you want to sit there and take that as another sign that things aren't going great, then you can by all means do that. But I think this is more a story about Washington State than it is about the Pac-12. Would y'all agree with that? I mean, this is about them, and this is who he's talking about. And it's just interesting because, here he was a couple of weeks ago in the sit-down interview with the Regent and talking about the new TV deal and, talking about all of the different things that are going on. You wouldn't have gotten a sense that this was right around the corner in watching that. And he was an enjoyable guy to listen to, and I got some, interesting tidbits from it that we talked about a little bit on this show about just sort of where the Pac was and in the midst of everything. And then here we are 2 weeks later, and they're in a world of trouble. I mean, no, not in a world of trouble, but they're in some trouble, as far as the pocketbook goes. There's no doubt about it. You don't do this if you're not. So, yeah, very interesting story to drop, and I wonder what other ramifications come from this and what else, could be coming down the pipeline as far as Wazzu goes. But, yeah, not the best look, certainly, and, not a great look overall for the Pac-12, and everybody's already kind of picking at you anyways, and this is another thing they can kind of pick at you for. And quite frankly, another thing where – it just goes to show you how important that TV deal is going to be. You can dismiss it all you want to and be like, oh, it's going to be fine. It doesn't matter when it's done and blah, 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 all this stuff. But, I mean, I don't know. This is a sign to me that thing's going to be pretty important because, this is that whammy of the overpayments that became known to, a few months ago. And we talked a bit about that and just the COVID years you mentioned and the uncertainty over a TV deal. I mean, a lot of things adding up to be kind of a triple whammy for Washington State. So something to keep an eye on for sure.
All right, when we come back, Grayson Grundhoefer was in town to do the Bearcast with Craig, which is on Tuesdays of each week and then blown up all over the place and available even on the premium section or in the premium section and eventually on social media, if not already. He was there today. We'll get Grayson's feedback on this. At 4 o'clock today, Steve Berkowitz, USA Today sports columnist, on what bill they're trying to put together for the NCAA to have a little protection when it comes to future decisions, if that ever gets to that point. Also, Craig's Off the Radar, Paul's Top 5, John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist at 5:30, and we'll also get a couple of comments from Dave Aranda from today on, is Baylor ready now to play the game of NIL? Not that they haven't been, but are they right now? Where are they? Where does he think they are when it comes to NIL? We'll have that. And who is he as a head coach? His thoughts about himself, which he hates to talk about, but he will have that for you as well. This is 365 Sports. I just sent an email to Ashley, who is at Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans, along with Cheyenne and Carol. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center, in between what is obviously Richland Drive and Valley Mills, which is the big road right down the middle of Waco. I go by there about once every 3 weeks to buy a sleeve of cigars, whether it's 2 or 4 or 8. While I play golf, I love to smoke cigars, and I'm going to be seeing my brothers here in a couple of weeks, and they love to sit on the back of my brother's incredible view on the east coast of Florida, talk, reminisce, whatever, and smoke cigars along the way. And I said, hey, Father's Day is coming up. Send me some notes about what are the best opportunities for people to buy a cigar or cigars or a box of cigars or accessories for Father's Day. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House. Samantha Duvall is in charge of marketing and also distribution. Memorial Day, right around the corner, 4th of July. What are some of the best opportunities for people if they want to order online and maybe get a bundle when they have those holidays in front of them?
TexasBeefHouse.com. You can order. We've got plenty of family bundles. Probably our most bestseller is our sampler pack. That gives you a variety of our jalapeno and cheese patties, our regular patties, ground beef, our garlic link summer sausage. Right now, all of our family bundles are on sale. It's the best time to buy it. You can buy steaks individually. All of our steaks come 2 to a package. We ship Monday through Wednesday. So make sure you get your orders in early. That way you can get them almost the next day.
The owner, Aaron Duvall, his daughter-in-law, Samantha Duvall, head of marketing and distribution, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
It's Jeep season at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are hot. Get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with $5,500 in total values, or a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with total values up to $5,000.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Greg will be discussing some opportunities at Richard Carr Motors in just a moment in the next commercial break. Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, people you can count on sponsoring this segment on Baylor Athletics. And we're joined by Grayson Grundhoefer, Bearcast co-host and also director of recruiting on what we do with SicEm365.com and college analyst. So Grayson, not a surprise. You've seen the reaction in the forums. We've had it in the chat room. Shapen QB1, what was your reaction from today's news?
I mean, it's one of those things where I'm not surprised at all that Dave Aranda went ahead and made this announcement. I kind of was actually more surprised that it took this long to announce a decision. This is something that I think going into the spring, and especially after a couple of weeks into the spring, it really felt like Blake Shapen had just kind of done the necessary things to entrench himself as the quarterback at Baylor. And whether that was taking big steps as a leader, which Dave Aranda mentioned, his leadership has grown immensely. It's more so becoming his team than it was a year ago. The consistency was another aspect that Dave Aranda mentioned, and that's something, again, we saw throughout the spring. He was consistent. Every single practice, it seems like he was getting better and better. Of course, the spring game comes, and Dave Aranda even mentioned this in the press conference. The spring game came, and he could understand why people on the outside might sit there and say, oh, Sawyer Robertson looked maybe better than Blake Shapen did. Maybe we should, go that direction. But at the end of the day, this came down to a cumulative factor. And what Blake Shapen showed them throughout the spring gave Dave Aranda, Jeff Grimes, and Sean Bell enough confidence to go ahead and name him the starter immediately after spring football.
Grayson, this is also doesn't have to be a permanent decision for anybody who's upset or worried about it, in that, look, Blake Shapen's been hurt a couple times. Sawyer Robertson could step in and play well, and then you're kind of back to square one when it's all said and done. So I do – sometimes people get a little too tense and upset right off the bat, but this does seem to be the easiest way and the smartest way to go, at least for the first few games of the season.
I definitely agree with that, Paul. And I think the only thing this means is that Blake Shapen's going to be the starter for day one, for their first day out there, their first game going into fall camp and into that first game. He's going to be the starter. I think that's pretty much all it guarantees, because Baylor plays a very good Utah team the second weekend of the season. And if Blake Shapen doesn't play well, then who knows? Maybe this ends up being Sawyer Robertson's team from that point on. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But I think that overall, Dave Aranda seemed very happy with the way that Sawyer Robertson took the news. This is a guy that's completely bought into the Baylor program. Baylor's where he wants to be. He's going to continue to compete and try to find himself as the starting quarterback at some point, maybe this season. And you're exactly right. I mean, Baylor quarterbacks getting through an entire season healthy, I don't know that I could tell you the last time that happened. And so Sawyer Robertson's going to have to be ready, because more likely than not, he's going to get an opportunity to either start a football game this season or at least contribute in a big way and potentially try to lead Baylor to a big victory if Blake Shapen does miss some time at some point.
Grayson, I think you mentioned something important there. What is their second game?
Utah, a very good Utah team.
Yeah, Utah at home. Hey, Sawyer, go suit up, pal. Go take on Utah in week number 2. I wonder, I'm sure they thought about everything big picture, but I have to think that having a game that early on had to have impacted and, helped break things Blake's way as far as the experience factor goes. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that, but that seems like a big game to throw Sawyer Robertson into for his second start.
I mean, I guess that's possible, a possible way of looking at it. I do think, you get the tune-up game, the first game of the year against Texas State. You get another one after the Utah game. But you're right. I mean, you got to be ready to go. I mean, Blake Shapen's going to get probably a ton of reps against Texas State, even if that game does turn into a blowout, which, I don't know how bad it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be, a 40 or 50-point win for Baylor. But I do think Baylor gets by that game pretty comfortably. But you're going to need to get Blake Shapen reps, and you're also probably going to want to get Sawyer Robertson some reps in that game as well, just in case something happens in that marquee matchup against Utah.
Grayson, what does, besides experience, Shapen do better than Sawyer Robertson?
Yeah, so I think the big thing right now, currently, and this is why, in my opinion, Gary Bohannon won the 2021 job, it's the leadership aspect. It's the fact that Dave Aranda, Sean Bell, Jeff Grimes, they believe that Blake Shapen is an actual leader of this football team and that it is his football team. I don't think Sawyer Robertson is near that quite yet. And Blake, to be honest, Blake Shapen wasn't near that last year. And I think we saw the ripple effect of him not being an elite leader last season, as well as other guys not stepping up into that leadership role as well. it really hurt their team last year. And so I think this year, him being a true leader on this football team is massive. I think if you're going to look at the X's and O's part of their game, I think Blake Shapen is a better improviser than Sawyer Robertson. I also think certain things that he's asked to do footwork-wise, whether it's out of the play action or under center, I think Blake Shapen's just ahead of the curve right now compared to Sawyer Robertson because of Sawyer coming from the Mike Leach offense, the air raid offense. He hadn't taken many snaps from under center during his career, so that's been a huge adjustment for him. And right now, Blake Shapen is significantly further ahead of him in that regard, and Baylor quarterbacks are asked to do that a whole lot in this wide zone RBO scheme.
Oh, Grayson, I do think that is something that people may have missed in there. Well, why isn't he ready? You could, if you went to the store of offenses, these are not even on the same aisle or the same section. Like they're, I would like to wide zone. Like, well, you're way over in spread. You're going to have to go all the way over here. There's a lot of differences in these schemes.
You're exactly right. And specifically what the quarterback is asked to do is completely different. And you would think that, most Baylor fans probably understand that, because if you look at this offense compared to, the offense that Art Briles was running, it's completely different. I mean, everything about it, from the run scheme to the passing game to the reads that you have to make to the tight end usage. I mean, there's so many differences between the two offenses. And you're exactly right. Sawyer Robertson comes to this situation, and a big part of his decision was actually to get himself more ready for the NFL, and he felt like he would do that in Baylor's offense compared to what Mississippi State was running, there with Mike Leach gone now. And so, I think it's just a learning curve, but I think ultimately we saw the flashes, and I think the coaching staff saw the flashes they needed to see from Sawyer Robertson this spring to give them a ton of confidence in what he's going to be in the near future.
Grayson, I know you have a lot of sources and connections. I know that everybody that works for us or with us, they all have their own ways of kind of getting even more inside information, although it can be airtight at times. Have you had any kind of reaction from any players that you've reached out to, or were you able to do that?
I think that as far as reaching out to the players, I think that it's become very interesting to hear just kind of this overarching theme of, hey, it makes a lot of sense that Blake Shapen is the guy. And I think the players knew for a while that it was going to be Blake Shapen. So I don't think this is necessarily anything new. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I haven't really heard a whole lot, just more so of like, hey, this makes a lot of sense. This seems about right based on what we saw this spring. But I've also heard a ton of, hey, but Sawyer Robertson's very talented type things. And so I think that should be a huge positive for Baylor fans who are kind of maybe on the edge about, was Sawyer Robertson a complete miss or something like that? I don't believe this has anything to do with that. It's more so about the steps that Blake Shapen took to win the starting quarterback job, and less to do with, what Sawyer Robertson does poorly.
All right. Be careful on the way home. Grayson, thank you very much for your time. Grayson Grundhoefer, recruiting analyst, Bearcast co-host, and also football analyst for all of what we do, the umbrella of SicEm365.com and 365 Sports. When we come back, some more to get to. At 4 o'clock, Steve Berkowitz, USA Today Sports. We'll hear from him. UCF has unveiled the helmet that they will use, and here it is. Big 12. UCF put that up just a moment ago, and Craig, I saw what you had on your screen. You showed it to me. There we go. That's UCF and the helmets that they will unveil joining the Big 12. More to come. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, and they're the people that I've counted on a couple of different occasions when I've needed to get my car fixed up, even though I didn't buy it from them originally. And when I do need to go get a new vehicle, that will be the place that I go once again. But right now, if you're in the market for a new vehicle, they have the most advanced and luxurious pickup in its class. You can step up to the astonishingly advanced 1500 Sierra Crew Cab, and right now save $3,500 at Richard Carr. Plus, well-qualified buyers can get 0.9% financing, no payments for 90 days. on most new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s in stock. Limitations apply, and you can talk to the good folks over at the dealership for more details, whether it's on the website, email, over the phone, or in person. And if you show up in person, then you look around the lot a little bit, then what you're going to see is the ranked #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers, Buick, which offers a luxury SUV without the luxury price tag. Experience the quiet escape and premium drive of the Buicks on a test drive today at Richard Carr. Right now, you can save $3,000 on a 2023 Buick Enclave. Plus, well-qualified buyers get 2.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. They also have a lot full of quality-owned pre-owned cars and trucks, and many of those in stock right now under $20,000. Affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to drive today, and ready to finance for almost any credit rating. And if you just want to drive your car for a little while longer, well, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road as well. So go by in person, give them a call over the phone, or go and visit the website to take care of whatever it is and set up whatever it is that you need taken care of or setting up, whether it's buying a vehicle or just getting the vehicle that you're in into tip-top shape. For 24 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
The future's bright. The time is now. College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
I'm sure if you're an alum or someone as a booster or both at Baylor, whoever, you know the schedule. But today, Brent Ingram, as Dave Aranda was giving his press conference, had a chance to visit with him a little bit. He's going to be in Fort Worth tonight from 7 until 9 at the City Club of Fort Worth. On July 13th, which is one of the nights of the Big 12 Media Days, Baylor coaches do this every year, he will be at the Dallas Plano Marriott Legacy Town Center. And then on Monday, July 17th, 7 to 9. All of it 7 to 9. He will be in Houston at the Omni Houston Galleria. So those are May 23rd in Fort Worth at the City Club, July 13th at the Dallas Plano Marriott Legacy Town Center, and then July 17th in Houston at the Omni Houston Galleria. Now, I just showed you the image of the UCF helmet. Put that up again if you don't mind, or do you already erase?
I've deleted it.
How do you do that so fast?
I'm maneuvering so quickly.
Okay,
I don't know.
All right, that's fine. That's just don't do it then. So Northwestern's president, this is Greg Flugar, who's out of Minnesota, who does a podcast. This was part of an article in Northwestern's campus newspaper. At the assembly, Schill, the president, and the panelists discussed UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten. The two schools, everyone knows, will join August of 2024. He said he was not really thrilled with the inclusion of UCLA and USC in the Big Ten. While he remains skeptical about initial decision, he believes adding more West Coast teams to the Big Ten in addition to those two could result in less overall travel time for all the teams in the conference. Doesn't mean he'll get his way, but there's just another note from another president from one of the conferences in America.
Yeah, he said it could. I mean, doesn't know that for sure, but if you're Northwestern and you're not wanting to travel, that's your best bet, is that they go and add a couple schools or 4 schools or whatever and take that load off of everybody else's plate that's going to have to go, more than halfway across the country. Still seeing little to no indication that the Big Ten's pursuing this in any way, shape, or form. It's more or less everybody just assuming that they're going to have to do this at some point, or that they will just need to do it at some point. And I understand the reasons why, and I understand the thought process behind it. I've seen a lot of that talk for a while now, and totally get it. But so far, just reading between the lines, it seems like everybody involved in the Big Ten is not really pursuing that idea at the moment. That's how it comes across to me, at least. Although on the outside, there's plenty of if Oregon and Washington and, stuff that we've talked about for a while. I think it's still something that could happen. But if I had to put a wager down, hey, bet your next paycheck, do they go expand further west in the near future, or do they kind of stand pat and figure things out the way that they are? I'm going with the latter, that they stand pat and figure things out, with this early onboarding process with UCLA and USC, figure all that out, figure out their, finalizing of their TV deal and what needs to be done there, and other pressing issues. And then, then maybe we see something, but it doesn't feel like it's an imminent type of thing.
We know where he was before Northwestern? President at the University of Oregon.
Yeah. I think here's the other thing is that, everybody has it in their mind about the travel, because very smartly, when these conferences were first organized, they were organized regionally. So you weren't going, cross country. West Virginia was not going to have to fly to BYU to play anything more than once in a while, when that kind of came up. USC wasn't going to Wisconsin, which is a closer one for them, but they weren't going to Wisconsin and Ohio and Michigan. That wasn't going to be a thing. Northwestern wasn't going to have to fly to Los Angeles other than, a certain amount of
times. The Rose Bowl with Gary Barnett,
in their history, right?
Yeah.
So that's still going to be in everybody's head, ingrained in this is why you do things. And for football, it really ultimately doesn't matter because you're only playing one game a week, and flights are flights. They're very comfortable. USC and UCLA and all these teams are not going to be cramming themselves into a tiny little plane and flying, 5 hours cross country to go play a game all that often. What it will do ultimately, and this is what pending NIL legislation and regulations and all these things will do, especially when it comes to balancing things out financially, is I think long-term. And when I say long-term, I mean a decade or more from now, because they'll try to make it work for as long as they can. But your non-revenue sports, your baseballs, your softballs, your volleyballs, and things like that. Tennis and golf and things may not be as affected, and track may not be as affected as much because they're going to big meets anyway. And that's kind of what they do. But when it comes down to it, I would not be surprised to see, look, Rutgers and UCLA are not going to be in the same conference for baseball or volleyball. They'll be in a conference because they do this already with some of the smaller sports, or, some conferences, a few teams have wrestling, a few teams don't. And so the conferences kind of combine, and that's your Big 12 wrestling conference or your Big 10 wrestling conference. And it will be more like that in that the sports will be more regional until you get to the postseason, because that's just how it's going to be. And yeah, you may not be in the Pac-12 or the Big 10 in everything, but in football and basketball and the sports that make money,
and you're talking down the road.
Down the road. I'm saying like a decade. I think that's where this is probably going to have to go, because if they're that concerned about it, and they continue to be that concerned about, volleyball essentially having to take a week off to do a road trip and play 2 games in the week, then you're going to have to probably change those things up.
Yeah, I think for right now, it probably makes more sense to see how the 2 LA schools do for about a year.
Yep.
And then, see what it looks like. But I would, I'm by no means ruling out the idea that this is, on the table. It could be on the menu sooner rather than later, especially because, what was the plan to begin with? If Kevin Warren was still around, do more schools have invites than they did before? Mm-hmm. If he's saying that the plan was always to, have better transportation or, a better situation fixed up, were there plans in the works for more to be added? That's what question I think that begs is, if it was such an issue, then, you still went forward with the 2 LA schools. So you had to have known all along that this was something that was going to crop up as a potential problem. So what were your solutions and the way you were thinking about how you would, deal with that? Were you thinking like, hey, there might be a couple more schools that join the fray, or was that never on the menu? And if not, then how did you not see this coming? So I don't know. There's like a couple of details missing, because this is obviously what the biggest issue was the travel and the proximity or lack thereof. So this was never a secret part of this, but what made you move forward with it initially outside of like, we'll go get LA, or is it we'll get LA, we'll also have some teammates to help the transition and make it easier, and then just everything got so crazy that you couldn't, finish off your master plan, and the guy who was in charge of it, or, maybe the president's changed their mind, or Kevin Warren's gone. I don't know, but there's definitely another piece to this. It just wasn't as concrete as the LA part of it.
And that's Petitti's now job to try to smooth things over, cross the T's, get the I's dotted, et cetera. And Bob Thompson yesterday, who's been a part of these discussions and media deals, said that he feels like it won't be that difficult to get the primetime games all set up and more. Now, this is not my opinion, but this was something, a part of the Washington State story from earlier that we mentioned, that they're going to kind of be careful with their finances and maybe even a little budget freeze and all that. They'll be fine. But here was one of the responses, and I bring this up because this is interesting with UCLA. They're moving to the Big Ten. Now, remember the number that has been put up there, $75 million, $100 million. Well, that's not going to be the case immediately, at some point most likely. But this was a guy on Twitter, and I thought it was kind of, again, the numbers may not match up. So those who are responding to the replay, whatever. Some say the dollars are closer to 60 than 70 million. Now, I don't know about 60. I would think 65, 70, but Regents already said UCLA will pay Cal a subsidy between 5 million, maybe 10. UCLA's own numbers say about 10 million of travel-related costs. Coaches will demand a Big Ten salary, correct? And then if you then take 60 million minus 10 million for the subsidy, 5 million or 10 million because of travel, 5 million or so, 40 million, 45 million, that looks different. And you wonder if like one regent or someone might look at that and go, hey, we need to make, it's done. They're going. And then good for UCLA and the Big Ten and USC. But you wonder if some of the math starts to like flare up just a little bit. And I appreciate the guy putting those numbers up to make me think about it too.
Yeah. I don't think so. I mean, I don't know this is just a full-on money grab right away. I think this is a long-term play that you're making as UCLA. This is the strength and the rock-solid foundation of the Big Ten that's not going anywhere anytime soon, ever, until college sports just aren't really a thing anymore. Mm-hmm. They're the cockroaches, along with the SEC, of the college football landscape. If Armageddon hits, they'll still be around. So I think if there's a lot of smart people out there in UCLA and USC country that are making some of these decisions, and sometimes they make dumb decisions too. But this is just one that, to me, it just every single school right now, and even any fan of a program who would maybe like make $1 million more or $1 million less, guess what? You're still booking that ticket to Big Ten country, buddy. Even if it's the same exact amount of money. I mean, look at the different situations. I mean, the Big Ten's got their TV deal. I know it's not completely ironed out to every, period and comma is all in the correct place, because of the news we learned yesterday. But there's big money coming, and it's going to offset your travel expenditures and all those types of things. Yes, the travel remains problematic, but I think that's totally offset by the security, the foundation and the future that you have. So I get the money not being quite as great maybe as it first appeared, but that's also just that's initially. That's not 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. It's not 20 years down the line. But regardless of when we're looking at it, UCLA is going to be in the mix because they made the move that they made this past year.
So when we come back, we'll hear from Steve Berkowitz, USA Today Sports, on some of the business side of all of this. He follows a lot of that. He's the one that will post on his Twitter feed bonuses for whoever wins a playoff game or wins a bowl game or wins whatever. He'll be next with us on that, plus the NIL and much more with what the NCAA is trying to continue to get done in Washington and his thoughts on that. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, new location on Loop 340 on the east side of I-35. It's Loop 340 and Highway 6, and they have their brand new location, 2,500 square foot showroom with 1,000 new products that they carry. Operations with Jeff Harriman, Braden Embry, who I've had a chance to visit with quite a bit, and Doug Dancer. They do a great job along with all of the others who are specialists in metal buildings, general sales, operation, metal building sales, and pipe and steel, and all of what they have. If you're building something, Pioneer Steel and Pipe most likely has it for you. If you need steel, pipe, whatever, if you need something long that is pre-cut so you can haul it to wherever you're going, commercial or real estate, they have that when it comes to pipe and steel or anything for a metal building or metal roofing. And they also have many more lengths that are shorter so you don't have to go spend time getting what you buy cut. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, it's heavy-duty stuff. They will unload it at the site for you if that's what you want. It's pioneerboys.com.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Here we go, this 3 o'clock hour. For those who are looking forward to Mac Rhodes' regular Tuesday segment, he will be with us tomorrow at 5 o'clock here on 365 Sports. Steve Berkowitz, USA Today Sports, does an amazing job with a lot of financials, and not just that, but covering the college football landscape. On a story today, NIL bill expected in-house would provide legal help sought by the NCAA. And Steve now joins us on 365 Sports. Steve, thanks for your time. Love what you put up on your Twitter feed and also with what you do with USA Today. So we've heard this. Dr. Livingstone at Baylor, of course, has been very much involved. The new Baker, the new president. How much of this is truly, in your opinion, going to have a chance to get inside and not just discussed, but possibly passed?
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for having me on, and I hope I don't disappoint here standing in. This is Mac Rhodes' usual time.
No, he's normally in about 20 minutes. No, you're good. You're good. You didn't push him back. No, we're good.
Okay. All right, because I know people are always going to be interested to hear from him, and I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see whether any of this stuff moves in Congress or not. I mean, there have been in the past few years, there have been a couple of these bills, at least every year. Most of them have gone, all of them have really gone nowhere. I mean, they've been referred to committees and then not gotten anywhere. Obviously, things are a little different now with the way things have gone with NIL and with the lobbying effort that the NCAA has undertaken, particularly since Charlie Baker became the president. He was hired in part because of the perception of his political acumen and political connections. So, I think there's a greater chance than there's ever been of there being congressional action. It's just going to be a question of what direction this goes. I'm not convinced that the bill that I wrote about this morning is going to be the only one put together. Senator Tuberville and Senator Manchin have been talking about putting together a bill. And so, whether or not this would come out of the House of Representatives, come out of the Senate, and where those things meet, all remains to be seen. But there does seem to be, some level of urgency around this, and it's just going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Steve, I would think that a big stumbling block, especially considering that, there's no supermajority on either side of this thing, is that there are not additions or plans to add athlete insurance for and all of those things to the bill, which Democrats would really want. Is that what you think will stall this up if it would get out of committee?
Yeah, I mean, it's right. I mean, that's exactly right. The differences in this have been largely along party lines. Democrats, both in the House and in the Senate, have been very keenly interested in expanding health benefits, educational benefits. They've expressed interest in stuff having to do with trying to close loopholes in Title IX that have become apparent over the past, that have been well known, but got pretty well documented during the 50th anniversary year. Richard Blumenthal, a senator from Connecticut, has talked about trying to figure out how to deal with NIL for athletes who are foreigners, because under student visa rules, it makes it very difficult for those folks to be able to take advantage of name, image, and likeness stuff here in the United States. So you have a lot of different interests at work here. And by and large, Democrats have been very, very loath to look at the idea of granting the NCAA any kind of antitrust protection, which is something that the NCAA very much wants, and that Republicans have seemed to be more willing to potentially provide to them through this kind of legislation. So you've got a lot of competing interests, and again, it's hard to know how this all comes out. I mean, obviously, it's no secret that Congress is having trouble dealing with getting through legislation, and things like a budget and and the debt limit and everything else. And those are really, really fundamental issues to the country. Makes sort of college sports look like a much, much smaller thing. So,
Steve, can you also touch on the bill out in California and what that means in regards to this, and what complications maybe that has as well, just in terms of what it's aiming for versus what this is aiming for, and further conflicts of interest?
Sure. The short answer in terms of how these two things interact is that if Congress were to pass a bill, it would override state action, and they would, certainly they would include language to that effect in the bill. In the meantime, what's going on in California is that there is a bill that is now going to be set for a vote within possibly this week, but certainly by the end of next week. The California Assembly, their House of Representatives, will vote on a bill that would create the opportunity for revenue sharing for the athletes. It would be based on the revenues generated by a particular team and athletics program, and it would result in payments to players. It starts to get very complicated after that basic construct, but it also sets up a very elaborate regulatory arrangement, because the schools would be required to do a whole bunch of other things in addition to creating this revenue sharing opportunity with the athletes. And that's also a very complicated piece of it. And again, that's one of the things that you would run into in Congress as well at the federal level, is who oversees all of this. If you want to sort of standardize how NIL works, is the NCAA going to oversee it? Is a third party agency going to oversee it? Is the Federal Trade Commission going to oversee it? And again, that's another sort of complicating factor here. And that's also part of what's going on in California. I think the general consensus is that the Assembly in California will approve this. The author of the bill is the Assembly Appropriations Chair. He's a former San Diego State basketball player, and he, seems pretty intent upon getting this through. Whether or not it will pass the California Senate still remains to be seen, and I think you'll see much more intensive lobbying by the schools out there and potentially by the NCAA to keep that from happening.
How much of all of what Baker and others are trying to do is to grab back the hay that left the barn when they had all these controls, and that they want to maybe limit any kind of athletes' rights movement, whatever? They can't get it back in the barn, can they?
It's going to be very difficult for them to do that. And I'm not even sure, and I've asked lawyers about this, and I have not been able to get an entirely clear answer. The other sort of hay that's out of the barn are these antitrust lawsuits that have already been filed. So even if you give the NCAA legal protection, I don't know whether or not the association will continue to have exposure to the ongoing lawsuits. There are 2 antitrust cases in California that are pending, one of which potentially, if the judge certifies it as a class action, would stand to subject the NCAA and the major conferences to billions of dollars in damages. And you have another case in Pennsylvania that also has the prospect of creating an employment arrangement or requiring payment of athletes at least a minimum wage under the Fair Labor Standards Act. So I don't know whether or not a federal law that's passed now can shield the NCAA from actions that are already underway. So yeah, there are a lot of things going on in terms of trying to reel stuff back in. And how do you, again, yes, they're trying to regulate this a little bit, but yeah, you're trying to figure out a way to try to bring, at least from the NCAA's perspective and the school's perspective, to try to bring some order to something that has, gotten out to a point where there's just virtually no enforcement of rules about what's going on here.
Wouldn't they almost have to write or amend the bill to protect themselves from losing those antitrust cases in some sort of way? Because they're not they're not the 27 Yankees when it comes to going to court, Steve. I mean, they're not good at that right now. They keep losing, and I don't know if that's going to turn around for them.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, the NCAA, has had a very tough time. The judge who handled the O'Bannon and Alston cases at the district court level is to say they're in front of the same judge for these other 2 cases as they stand in the district court. The NCAA did not fare terribly well in an appeals hearing, oral argument that occurred in the case in Pennsylvania. And so, yeah, I mean, they're facing some uphill battles potentially legally. But again, I just don't know the extent to which congressional action can bail out, can short circuit what's already in place. I think for sure they can prevent legal action going forward, but I don't know how this would work currently. So yeah, I mean, you would still potentially have that problem.
There was note, I guess, in the last week about Larry Scott still getting some money. And now we know that Warren is gone and left a little bit there for Tony Petitti to deal with. But Bob Bowlesby, of course, has been out for basically less than a year. I saw your note about NCAA Power 5 conferences or cash cows. How much money is being paid to commissioners of the Autonomy 5 conferences that are not even a part of it anymore?
The folks, the commissioners who are currently the commissioners of the autonomy conferences, basically now the going rate for those folks is in the low $3 million. Greg Sankey is making, I think, about 3.6 at this point. It's a little bit hard to gauge because you have guys who are coming in new, but that seems to be the going rate, somewhere in the $3.5 million range. What's going on with some of the commissioners who left is that in some instances, like in Jim Delaney's case, Delaney had negotiated and been awarded in his contract a bonus that was tied to the Big Ten's previous the television package that he helped negotiate. So Jim Delaney will be paid bonus money on a deferred basis going forward through the year 2027. And that's a pre-negotiated thing that was in place when he retired. So he will continue to be paid for 5 more years. 4 more years. I get a little confused with the way the 990s are structured. Larry Scott, his severance arrangement with the Pac-12, he'll be paid for one. He was being paid in 2022. His contract originally was supposed to go through June of 2022. He cut it short by a year, so they owed him money contractually for 1 more year. I don't know the status with Bob Bowlesby or Kevin Warren because of the way they departed, whether or not they have deferred payments that they're due or not. The story that Pete Thamel did on ESPN that you were referring to concerning the television stuff that Tony Petitti has been trying to nail down, which is a really fine piece of work by Pete, talked about there being some question as to whether or not Kevin Warren will be getting any kind of a bonus similar to Delaney's bonus that was tied to the TV payments. And based on Pete's reporting, he said that that's still an unknown. So you definitely have folks who worked as commissioners of these leagues who have money that's still owed to them, which, by the way, is not entirely dissimilar from the way this works in other nonprofit organizations. You have college presidents who have similar deferred pay plans. When Charlie Weiss got fired by Notre Dame paid him out over 7 years. So when folks get fired, that works in different ways. When Gary Patterson's deal with TCU, when the numbers about that showed up on Texas Christian's tax records this year, the university said that they paid it all out in one lump, and that was the end of it. That Gary Patterson is not continuing to get paid by the school, but they paid him. It was a low 8-figure amount.
All right, Steve, we appreciate your time. Great stuff. Someone wins a bowl game, there's a bonus. Somebody wins a certain amount of games or gets to a championship game, a conference championship game, a tournament. You fire it up there on your timeline. It's a really good follow. Steve Berkowitz, USA Today. Steve, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot for having me on.
Yep, absolutely. Need to get you on more often than we do. That's Steve Berkowitz. We appreciate his time. Again, Mac Roach, normally at 4:20. Today, he will be tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Barry Switzer tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and also Max Olson, theathletic.com. I think he'll be at around 3:30. One of our viewers, and now we're going to go to these pictures, and we did, Gary. So Kim Coulter sent me these pictures. Kim is on the right. The guy on the left, who has an incredible tan, is none other than Rocky Patel, named the cigars after him. That's part of the outdoor backyard kitchen that Kim has at his beautiful place in Arizona. Rocky Patel was there for a big event and cooking lobster tails and so much more. So, Kim, thank you for sharing those pictures. Rocky Patel is one of my favorite cigars. And Kim, you should see, I couldn't get all of them in there, but the pictures of his backyard kitchen, 270-inch screens. There's no reason to go anywhere. Just stay where you are in that outdoor kitchen.
You remember when I went to the party in Miami at the Super Bowl, the Ditka party? Those Rocky Patel cigars I got were handed to me by him.
By Rocky Patel?
Yeah, he was there.
Oh, my God. Yeah,
he was just sitting there handing out cigars, and I couldn't have known him from Adam. And then I walked up and I was talking to Rob and Jason, and Jason's like, "That's Rocky Patel right there." And he handed me the cigars. You put them in the little grab bag that they give you. And I said, "I know that's the Rocky Patel booth." And he's like, "No." And then he was like, "Oh, hi, Rocky Patel. Here, have some cigars." I was like, "Oh,
that's one of the things at these media days that really has been a go-to, no matter where it was. Last year in Phoenix, they hand out cigars. Somebody's rolling cigars or whatever, and the media just gobbles them up, absolutely gobbles them up. So there's Rocky Patel Love his cigars, Rocky Patel Torpedo Edge, which, of course, when I promote cigars, as I did earlier, at Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans. Anything from what Steve Berkowitz mentioned that you guys want to add to it? Then we break and come back with more.
I think that, when you look at, okay, like he mentioned, are these laws going to be passed, going to help them out of these lawsuits? It doesn't appear that that's necessarily the case, and they're trying to write laws where they can stop getting sued. Well, the way you stop getting sued is to probably redo the whole structure of everything, but they don't want to do that. They want to like bend it, not break it. They'd like to keep it pretty much the same, allowing for things that they didn't allow for a long time. But that NLRB stuff and the antitrust lawsuits, I just don't know how, based on the way that the other things went and the economics of all this. I mean, if this was 1967, of course, they'd have to worry about it back then. But if somebody tried to bring this up then, what are you really fighting for when it comes to overall dollars? But it's not. It's 2023, and it's really hard to say, well, we can't afford this when you turn around and you pay a coach $10 million.
Yeah, first of all, Kim, very cool pictures. Thanks for sharing those. Looks like you got a cool spot there. When it comes to this other stuff, it makes me want to bang my head against the wall. And the biggest reason why is because the big solution that has, come up time and time again is not a realistic solution. The big saving grace solution is not even realistic. As he pointed out, there's, some other political battles being waged right now. There's actually a really huge thing going on right now as far as this country and defaulting going on. That's a bit more important than, college sports and name, image, likeness. So, I don't want to be repeating myself every time the topic gets brought up because it is important. And look, the next, era of college athletics, it's going to be unavoidable. Name, image, likeness, and all the things that come with that. It's something they have to figure out on a fundamental level, but it's just you're barking up the wrong tree, I feel like. Even if that's the only tree that you can bark, up, I get it, but I don't see, anybody coming to answer your prayers anytime soon. I just don't. And I feel like even if there was a solution, then somebody on one side or the other would find a way to turn it into a sandpit fight just for the sake of doing so, because we don't want to agree on anything with the other side. And so I just have very little faith, and that's just, I'm not trying to be super negative about it, but I feel like we've been hearing for 2 years now, if not, a little bit less than that, about how the big, hope being the key word is, the government stepping in and passing legislation. It's just like, what indication do we have that they're willing to do that? We have little to no indication that they're willing to do that. They're willing to listen more than they were previously. Charlie Baker's opened that door up a little bit more, but I'll be happy to be wrong and something comes down the pipeline here really soon that answers everybody's questions. But I don't feel like that's where we're headed right now. And if we're not, then what's the pivot? What do you do then?
How many times do you beat your head against the wall?
Exactly. And when do you finally go, okay, this is clearly not going to work this way, so let's go this other direction. And what is that other direction? Is that other direction just simply having to cave in and go, all right, they're employees? Is that a defection, a line drawn in the sand, all of the Alamo, where, there's going to be teams on one side that are basically the semi-pros, and they're like, hey, school's cool, but that's not really the focus here. And the other side's more of the academics and more of the old collegiate model. I hesitate in thinking that's where we're headed because people talk about these splits and these money splits and all that. Maybe that's the split that we're headed towards more than anything else as far as the money is. Who's in the game of pay to play and who's in the game of good old-fashioned name, image, likeness? Not that one's better than the other or whatever, but I don't see any other solution at the end of the road here.
Conundrum on the chat room. Any NIL bill passed by Congress will, 1, be appealed, 2, lost in federal court, similar to the student loan forgiveness.
Yeah. So what do you do? And that's what I really want to know. That's the part that I want to know is, okay, this thing you've been doing for a while now, that's cool and everything, but what's the plan B? if this doesn't, are we going to be here in another year going, well, if Congress would just get their stuff together and vote on, there's a presidential election coming up soon. Like, they're not going to have more time coming up. They're going to have far less of it. So I just feel like they're floating a prayer out there, and I don't have a lot of faith in it. I don't want to, like I said, be down in the Dobbs about Debbie Downer about this, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen for them.
Yeah. It was. I don't know. There were a lot of other problems in America, but it was a banner time when Congress passed things with the intent of, let's make sure this doesn't go to court.
Right.
Because now it's a very common practice. Is that they're going to pass a law knowing it will go to court, wanting to challenge it in court because, it's some sort of flashpoint issue. But, yeah, I think that's the other thing that needs to get done here is that you need to pass something that isn't going to get challenged in court, or you can confidently say that if it does, it won't last very long. But yeah, that's not really how things are done anymore.
And having said that, I mean, you can't just throw up a white flag and then just cave into everything. Although it seems like you'd save a lot of time by doing that because the result's pretty much the same and you'd save a lot of money. But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to know what step 2 is because step 1's just kind of in a holding pattern, it seems like, but maybe we'll be surprised somewhere along the way.
All right, I have a question. This is me asking our audience. As Craig and Paul know, and pretty much anyone that understands and knows me, I don't hear very well. If you put my headsets on, it's going to be a lot louder than the volume's much higher than what Craig and Paul listen to. So I just went to Amazon.com, and I'm going to ask you guys first, do you know, without getting earpieces that are going to cost like $2,000 or $1,500 or $800, do you know of an earpiece that is in the, $100, $100, $200 range that you've heard about or you have used that actually works? Because I was getting ready to buy a pair because I'm tired of that. I can't fix my eyes because I can't do LASIK again, so I wear contacts that don't feel very good. Now I need to fix my ears. My lower back is screwed up. So I'm going to try to get that done because it frustrates the hell out of everybody that I cannot hear when people are talking. So just a random comment. You can put it up on the chat room if you want. When we come back.
Hold on. I got to send this to Garrett. I found one for you.
What, already?
Yeah, hold on.
Well, I know I have one ready here to go here. Beats earbuds. No, I'm not talking about.
He's talking about like actual hearing.
When I'm working out or running or walking, I put those in, earbuds, and I have my phone with me.
Look, I can promise you, Garrett, you got to get this picture up here.
Oh, don't. This is making fun of me.
This will come in under budget.
I'm walking off the set.
I'm still waiting for the email. Hang on.
Okay. I mean, look, if you're concerned about budget.
Alan Tran, by the way, I got LASIK too. It hurts. No, I had LASIK. It's one of the best things ever physically that I could ever imagine because of the lack of glasses or contacts. But that lasts for only so long. And then I started having issues reading. And now I actually see better in my left eye, which I wear my contact is for reading. It's long distance.
I'm so screwed.
Yeah, you are. Garrett, okay, what is this, Paul? I hate you.
I knew it was going to be that picture. I absolutely knew it.
And there you go. Under budget. Maybe not as effective, but less than $100.
I promise. Have drawn the guy, but I could have drawn that very instrument right there. I could have totally predicted that if you'd given me a piece of paper.
Is this for the Rogaine box that I gave you on your birthday? Yeah. No, I'm dead serious. There's a pair on Amazon right now that I'm about to buy that's like $170, but I don't know if they work, if they really work, because some... you can go and it costs you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So if you have any idea or somebody that you know, please let me know because I was about to get that done. When we come back, USF is building a football stadium. And also, Craig's off the radar right around the corner. A lot to get to when it comes to postseason in the NHL and NBA. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Bob Mock has 5 locations in the Waco area. There were none just a couple of 3 or 4 years ago. Now there are 5. He's been in the pizza business for a long time in different brands, different companies, and different roles, and learned about it and loved what he did enough to where he wanted to run his own particular franchise. Join, if you want, the fastest growing and 5th largest pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza. You can go online, marcos.com. The Magnifico pizzas they start at $9.99. There's the pepperoni Magnifico. There's the all sausage, Italian sausage Magnifico. And then there's the combo Magnifico. And they have pizza bowls if that's what you want. They have cauliflower crust if you want that, cheesy bread, and a lot more. And then some orders, based on what you want to order online or not, will include soft drinks, for example, 2 medium, 1 topping pizzas, cheesy bread, and 2 liters of what drink you want. $21.99. Use the code HD189. Bob Mock's great at what he does. He owns 5 of the Marco's Pizzas locally. Again, the fastest growing pizza brand, 5th largest in the country. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
All right, here we go. This 4 o'clock hour reaching the halfway mark. Right around the corner, Craig Smoak off the radar. Garrett Ross today is running the mothership as he does almost every day. Levi Caraway is here. Jack McKenzie is here. And also Emery Winter. Then Graham Bronstein is here as well. He's here 2 days in a row. Most of the time when people show up the first day and then they're like, I'm not going back. But Graham is here. Great. Graham's in Missouri. I saw when Nebraska flipped the Missouri commit quarterback.
Yeah, well, that's got to be a bummer for Graham.
He's a hometown guy from.
So take that.
Yeah,
Take that, Mizzou.
Of course, they would rather have had Dylan Raiola, but we know how that ended up. Georgia, thank you for being so amazing.
We didn't talk about that.
What?
Dylan Raiola.
Didn't talk about Dylan Raiola.
When did that happen? I thought we did that day of.
No, I think it happened over the weekend.
Really
we texted about it.
We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. No, it was just a matter of time.
I mean, I don't know what the expectations were for Nebraska fans. I mean, I think that you had to be holding out hope and staying positive,
very small.
Probably also thinking like, hey, there's a pretty good chance that he's wooed by, a handful of, Ohio State or a Georgia. So he was committed to Ohio State.
Yeah.
And so,
Yep.
I don't know how involved they still were, but, a program like that, like a Georgia, you could say like, okay, yeah, like we'd understand that. But, I'd imagine like any recruiting battle for any school, you're hoping that he's the guy that swings momentum the other way. And they did their best based on what I could tell, based on just the social media that I saw and
No, they gave it a
all
shot.
that. And so
Gave it a
that's
shot.
all you can really do at the end of the day is your very best. And it seems like they did that and it wasn't enough. So on to the next one, and maybe that helps ease the blow a little bit.
Well, there's a story about it, and one of the things that Rule did was he was the first young man, a prospect to follow Raiola, was committed to Ohio State. And then when Raiola decommitted, Rule, the young man from Nebraska, visited a couple, 2 or 3 times, and they were very upfront with him. Hey, listen, we got a guy that's got some lineage here. We are going to chase him. And if that doesn't work out, we will be in touch. And soon after Raiola committed to Georgia, they flipped the young man, the quarterback who was committed to Missouri.
Well, hey, I mean,
So
he
they did
wanted
it
to
right.
be there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and they said, we're going big game hunting, no offense. And, they didn't get the trophy that they were, initially hoping for, but doesn't mean this guy might not end up being better in the long run. I mean, for all we know. So, yeah, I mean, I respect the swing that they took. And look, hey, it's not over either. I mean, that's the
Nothing's
thing.
forever. It's not.
You're right. So here's a note from USF. Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times, does a great job. We've had him on many times with various colleges and programs in the state of Florida. The USF Board of Trustees vice chair today on a $350 million stadium. We may not be the quickest, but we do things the right way at USF. We will have water fountains in the stadium. And then, of course, there was some sort of notation about UCF. Big 12 member UCF did not have water fountains when the bounce house opened. And Matt Baker even said, love it when there's always a little bit of trash talk. So I know that those two, who hates each other more? UCF and USF, or Utah and Brigham Young?
I don't know.
I think Utah and BYU might be at the
so.
top. That one seems even more personal, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, but also, before this got board approval, there is some concern that they don't have all the money yet.
Well, no, they're not going to just start.
And that they don't, and they won't get it. So they've got this plan. They're proved it. They don't think that there's a lot of people that don't think it'll necessarily get done.
Well, and my question is this. Okay, we know where college football is now with 65 of the autonomy 5 plus Notre Dame, right? Mm-hmm. And we know what we see with conferences either shrinking or adding. We see what's happening, what might occur in the next 5 to 10 years. Is that a smart investment? If you're UCF and you're adding more because you're now a part of the Big 12 or Houston or whoever, or your team's in the Big 12 or whoever, you can see that because you know where you are. Is that a smart investment if you still don't know if that's going to be enough down the road?
Is what a smart investment.
$350 million to play what might not be at a high level. Not that they can't be good. But
is it smart to spend $350 on a stadium if you're not going to be at the big level? Is that
you're
what
not going to play
saying?
what would be considered not Division I football, but whatever that level might be in 5 or 8 years.
Non-Power 5.
Yeah.
I think.
Sorry, Mike Oreskin.
I think
what it's called.
I think they're at a point though where they have to. I mean, they have fallen so far behind everybody else. Just when it comes to attracting students to campus, USF and Raymond James Stadium are not that far apart, but they're not that close either. I mean, it's not. It's harder to get people there when, especially on a day you're going to have to fight traffic and go where you are. So, yeah, I think that ultimately you do need to have a stadium on campus because there's nothing about Raymond James Stadium that feels that USF plays here other than if you walk there on a Saturday and went, oh, USF plays here, I guess. I didn't know that. So you need to create that, and you need to create facilities and different things of excitement for recruits to come in there. So it's probably worth it as a long-term investment, but they are, in making that investment, obviously they did not do what UCF did, where they very intentionally said, we're going to have a plan to make ourselves Power 5 ready when that opportunity knocks. USF did not ever have that plan. And so now they're trying to play catch up, and they can, dog UCF all they want. UCF's in a power conference now and did that by looking ahead and saying, we have to be ready when the call comes.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just love the pettiness of the UCF and USF, back and forth. So I took it initially to mean like water fountains, like go visit he's talking about like just regular water fountains. Yeah. Like, so you didn't get water in the stadium is what he's talking about, right? See, I read it and
You're
heard
talking about like one of those locker rooms that had all
like where you drink out of.
Yeah,
That's what he's talking about.
Right.
I thought he was talking about like a lawn, like a water. I was
one.
like, okay, that's kind of a weird dig at them. Like they didn't have water fountains. I don't understand it, but okay, I'm just out of the loop there. No, he's talking about water fountains like you drink out of. So, okay, now I understand it far better, and it's a better shot than just how random the other way sounded. But I think if you're, I don't know, I see USF in that Memphis category where you're regretting right now that you didn't do more of this previously. And had you done some of this previously, then maybe you aren't in a position where you're as unsure about what the future looks like and your place within that. So, it's now or never, really. I mean, if you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? Because it doesn't seem like the doors are widening and more of them are opening. It seems like the squeeze is only getting tighter. So if you're able to do it and fund it and, get it done, then I think that's maybe your big swing, your big cut at the plate, and you just hope that you make contact, or really you hope that you hit one over the fence. But, I mean, the alternative is sitting on your hands the way you have for probably far too long, according to some members of your fan base. And, that's part of the reason why you're in the position that you're in to begin with. So sit and don't act and stay where you are and see how that serves you, or try to take a big cut and see if that can't propel you to something that's a little bit rosier and more optimistic. But, yeah, I mean, it's still a bit of a tough position whether you do or you don't. But I'm glad that USF's just trying to get something done.
Well, you have some schools. We got a break for Off the Radar, so we stay on time. We'll have some comments that Dave Aranda made, a question that I asked in a follow-up about Baylor football and NIL and his responses to both. But, if you're Memphis and you're Boise State and you're USF or whoever, and I don't know what that group, we have Jacob asked me a lot about, what if the Pac-12 doesn't have anybody leave, and what happens then? What about Boise or Memphis or whatever? And everyone's on the radar, but then again, how far away does that radar circumference go?
Yeah, the problem, we're cutting into my segment, so I'm fine with it.
Right,
But the problem,
you know. Okay.
I know we're cutting into that. So I think the problem is just the additive factor. That is what it is. There's not a lot of things you can do to increase your value, although building a brand new stadium is one of those things that you can do. It certainly raised this school's profile just across the way from us, Baylor, when they built McClain Stadium. That took them to a whole different level. So it can certainly help. Is it enough to close the gap? And this time around, if people go looking again, secure an invite, I don't know about that, because it seemed like that line is starting to get a little long. And unfortunately for Memphis or USF or schools like them, Boise, you hear about expansion, and as we know, with the Big 12, it's just kind of all over the place. It's whatever the flavor of the day is, seemingly. But with the Pac side of things, which doesn't get talked about as often because they've kept everything just so close to the vest or whatever, it's not those schools either. it's SMU and it's San Diego State, right? So, I mean, there's only so many spots and so many invites, and it feels like we're going into contraction rather than, adding more and more schools, although there's the 4 in the Big 12 and there's possibly 2 coming to the pack. But are there going to be 8, 10, 12 more invites along the way, or even 6 or 4 that are coming along? It's hard to see where that would come from. But, hey, if you don't build a stadium, then I can tell you what the answer for sure will be. If you build one, then maybe it bumps it up a few percentages.
When we come back, as he said, his segment Off the Radar is next. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, I'll be there tomorrow morning. And normally on the eve of any kind of a dental appointment for many, many years, I was like, man, how can I push it back? I can't make it. Can I move it back a month or 10? Because it was always something that I just knew something was wrong. And who knows, there might be something that Dr. Steve Childress finds. I have a normal teeth cleaning tomorrow, and then he will sit down with me and give me the ABCs of what else I have that I need to work on. But I have felt so much more comfortable. Remember, I had to the right of my front teeth, I had a couple of teeth that were pulled, a couple of crowns put in. And you know what? I had to go through that, and I had to spend money on the crowns, not to mention the work, because I just did not keep up with the maintenance. And I'm not just talking about the normalcy of brushing your teeth or whatever, but really, truly taking care of your dental work. Dr. Steve Childress not just taught me, but showed me and understood. It was a plan to make sure that my dental work is great going forward, even though there is still work to be done. Tomorrow morning, I got a call today to remind me. I got a text today to remind me. I had one a week ago to make sure that I didn't do something too far ahead I know I got to go to a dentist appointment. So tomorrow morning, 8:30, can't wait. Stonewood Dental with Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas.
It's the season at Allen Samuels in Waco to find the vehicle that's right for you. Get amazing deals on new Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Chrysler sedans, and minivans, or a sporty Dodge. At Allen Samuels, we're committed to taking care of our customers, and that means having as much new inventory on hand for you to choose from. Of course, if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams. And order it today. Shop AllenSamuelsDCJ.com or come in to see us today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
The future's bright, the time is now. College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run, and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more.
Baylor, where lights shine bright.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. It's a Tuesday at around 4:45. We do this Tuesdays and Thursdays. Just take a little bit of a grab bag of headlines, and not a lot of super interesting, like spicy type of outside the line stories going on right now. Most of everything going on the court, and that included last night as the Western Conference Finals got wrapped up. Denver defeating the Lakers 113-111. Fun game to watch, and Nikola Jokic is just an incredible basketball player, but he's got a lot of other really good players on his. I mean, the Nuggets are just a really good team, and they're going to be, a very fun matchup in the finals. And we'll get to the Eastern Conference in a second and who they might be meeting. But Denver takes the Western Conference Final Series 4-0. LeBron will not win another title, at least not this year, but I guess the big story coming out of that game is not only now Denver's half of what we'll see in the championship series, which, by the way, I didn't realize is like, even if the Eastern Conference ends with a sweep to, with Miami, that they still wait until the scheduled finals. So, it's not like, Thursday they'll start the finals up and it's time to get it. No, we'll have to wait a little while for those. But and definitely the NBA, I don't think, was planning on having 2 sweeps, but that's potentially what could happen here with Denver already securing that side of things. But following that game, LeBron James in the post game talked about the fact that he's, he at least threw it out there, I think very intentionally, very methodical in making that one of the stories exiting last night's game, that at least retirement is starting to weigh on his mind and on his career. And he left it very open-ended. And, I've seen article after article after article today, like he can't hang it up yet. I have maybe 1% chance in my mind that he actually is ready to hang it up. I don't believe it whatsoever, but I wanted to get y'all's guys' thoughts on LeBron, who is 38 years old. Mm-hmm. He's, got, a bunch of championships and accolades, and he's the top of all the record books pretty much in almost every category at this point, and he's got, to me, way more to go. But just y'all's thoughts on LeBron, and we're at that point now where he is 38 and starting to just talk about the R word, which is, being realistic at the same time. But I, for one, don't think he's close to it right now.
No, LeBron, in this case, first of all, some love attention. Might be you, could be me, whatever. LeBron was deflecting that they just got their asses swept by the Nuggets. He played 48 minutes. It was amazing what he did, deflecting the fact that they got swept out, and that will be the talk on all the Yap shows and everyone else. LeBron going to retire. That will go like it's putting up a Cowboys logo, a Lakers logo, or a Yankees logo. That's what he was talking about.
I don't think he's done. It would not shock me to see him take a year off and do kind of the Michael Jordan thing.
See where his son lands?
Especially if the Lakers are at a point where they say, this is not sustainable the way we've got the roster built. And that, to me, would make him go, okay, I'll sit out a year and then see if Bronny is indeed good enough to be a one and done and where he goes. I mean, that still remains to be seen.
We don't know that. Like, that's the part that everybody just plugs in, like, okay, so he'll wait a year and then Bronny's like a one and done and then he's, a lottery pick? Like, I mean, what are the expectations here for this kid?
Let's say that Bronny is not a one and done and he's made this decision.
Right.
And he's 2 or 3 and done.
Yeah.
Well, then you're talking about getting into your 40s, and while he still may do that, and then if Bronny's not a lottery pick, say he goes 28th overall, then he might wind up with a good team, but he can also go to a team like, Detroit or something if he is good. And I don't know if LeBron really wants to go play in Detroit if he wants to play with him that bad. Right. I mean, he keeps saying that, and that's great in theory, but in practice, look, Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. played together for like a couple of months, and that was fine. But Ken Griffey Sr. was, really clinging to it at the end there just so he could get that done.
Yeah, LeBron's not clinging. I mean, he's definitely gotten older. There's no doubt about that watching him. I mean, you definitely see that he is he's not the spring chicken that he once was, but he's got some time left. He's, as I mentioned, 38, and we'll see what happens. But he was throwing that out there, and I don't know. I didn't take it the same way as you did as far as him trying to deflect, but, I mean, that does make some sense. I do think he was, making it about him, though, and, now the offseason starts – everybody's going to talk about me and focus on me and what I'm going to do next. I did take it sort of that way of okay, well, that's smart. If you're looking for attention and you're looking to keep your name in the media, throwing that out there is definitely some pretty good bait, and I can only imagine what a lot of the talk shows were like today. But Nuggets do win, and that was season number 20 coming to a close for LeBron. Season number 20.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's broken Jabbar's record, Alcindor Jabbar's record. That's amazing. He's done all these things. I'm not a big fan of him sometimes personally, but I don't have anything but last night was drama. He created drama to overcome the fact they were swept.
Good. Yeah, and I know not everybody agrees with him on everything, which I don't even know half of what his opinions are because I don't keep close enough track. But I don't think there always needs to be a qualifier with him either of I don't, he's a great basketball player. He might play basketball for a while longer. We'll see. That's really the only point of mentioning him here. But on the other side of the victory was Nikola Jokic, the MVP, also took home the Magic Johnson trophy as the MVP of the Western Conference Finals. So who will the Nuggets play? Well, it's looking like it's going to be the Miami Heat. And later on tonight, it very well could be the Miami Heat as 7:30, the tip-off on TNT. Game 4, Miami, the 8th seed, up 3-0 at home against the number 2 seed Boston Celtics. And, obviously if Miami wins that one, then they are moving on along to face off with Denver, which should be a great final series. But whether or not it gets done, we will find out later on tonight. So a little basketball on your TV screens, but there will also be a little bit of hockey as well as taking a look at the current state of the NHL Conference Finals. You've got Carolina and Florida over on the eastern side of things, and Florida just 1 game away now from a sweep, but that will be tomorrow night that we have to wait for that to possibly see its conclusion. Tonight, however, Dallas, the Stars, playing host at the American Airlines Center to the Vegas Golden Knights. Face off 7 o'clock on ESPN, so you have the NBA on TNT at 7:30 with the Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference NHL Finals, 7 o'clock on ESPN. And, Dallas and, a bit of a pickle here, down 2-0. Over on the other side, I mean, dang, I think about that. We could have 4 sweeps in the NHL and NBA conference finals. I mean, that's wild. I just now put that together.
I think the Stars are going to push this one with Vegas. I know they lost twice, but I think that's going to be
only team
extended.
They're the only team that's not on the brink of elimination entering their next game. So that's on the losing side of things. So they could afford to lose, and they still have some breathing room. But Garrett, at home now, the AAC, down 2-0. How are you feeling about the Dallas Stars?
He's been so wrong.
Yeah, you have to win. Obviously, that's stating the obvious, but you're 5-2 at home in the playoffs in the AAC. You're coming off your first consecutive 2-loss game in 2 months. It was nice to see Robertson kind of find his mojo a little bit, but they have got to get more aggressive with their forechecking, and they have got to capitalize on power plays, man. They let too many times get away from them. They look just kind of lost at times out there. I don't know, man. Vegas is just playing with an intensity that Dallas was not able to match out there, and they have to be able to do that at home.
So, in the NBA, I believe no one has ever come back from 3-0 down, and they put that up when the Lakers were beaten. In the NHL, it's happened 4 times.
Wow, I did not realize that.
It's 2014 first round. The Kings came back from 3 down against San Jose. 2010, the Flyers came back from 3 down to Boston. 75, the Islanders came back to beat Pittsburgh. In the quarters in the championship in 1942, Maple Leafs came back to beat Detroit. So it's happened.
There's hope.
4 times where it's never happened in the NBA, and now it's like 156 or whatever it is.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
So there's a chance. So, yeah, Stars and Golden Knights tonight at 7 on ESPN. So got a little double dip of the NHL and the NBA. Meanwhile, a change coming to NFL kickoffs, at least for 1 year. The 2023 season will see the NFL go the direction of college football. A fair catch on a kickoff will be placed at the 25-yard line regardless of where it's fielded. A proposal that was voted on designed to counteract a recent increase in pop-up kickoffs that some teams have been using to pin the returning team deep in their own territory. This also, they say in the language at least, has to do with concussions and trying to prevent those and the big collisions that you get from kickoffs. And Roger Goodell said that the data was very clear about the higher rate of injury on those types of plays. They've been talking about changes for a lot of years, but haven't made very much progress, and there's more work to do. But they're trying to keep the game exciting and safe, and so this is one of the ways they're trying to do that. And so I've seen some very negative reactions to this rule. What are y'all's thoughts on having the NFL have a kickoff spotted at the 25-yard line?
I don't have one. It doesn't bother me at all either way.
It doesn't bother me. I just think it's certainly going to make things a little bit more boring.
Fair catch.
I mean, yeah, you're going to have a lot more fair catches because it's such an advantage and whatever. I mean, there's still going to be guys who are going to go and try to take the kickback. So
yeah, there'll still be some of that. I don't think it really made much of a difference with college football.
Especially moments, especially there's going to be moments during a game where it's, I think about Tony Pollard on Thanksgiving a couple years ago against the Raiders, took the kickback because the Cowboys needed a spark. Now, they wound up losing that game because they could not stop getting penalties called on them late, but Tony Pollard woke them up. And so there's still going to be those moments where it's like, I don't care about fair catching this thing. I think I can get this. And a lot of that has to do with...
You think Cordell Patterson's going to fair catch?
No, I mean, I think the guys who are doing it are going to do it.
Rarely.
Unless, they'll do it. But especially, Bones Fossil's been pretty good for them about, finding the weaknesses in the other team's special teams. And if they've got a chance to return one, they're going to do that. So I think for the most part, it's going to be kind of, make something maybe more boring. But most of the time, those kickoffs are going to get tackled at the 22-yard line anyway. So what's the difference?
Hey, by the way, in the XFL, and I did notice they have that zone, and they can kick it, and everyone's there. And what happens if a return man doesn't get past that zone? Is it does the kick return team get an extra point or something like that? I never realized.
No, I don't think it's that.
Was there anything if you don't get back to that 20-yard line or whatever?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I didn't pay close enough attention, honestly. I kept up with more transactions than I did watch a lot of XFL, to be totally honest with you. But, I don't know. I'd have to look into that a little bit. Meanwhile, media note, Devin McCourty, who just retired from the NFL, won 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots, has joined the NBC Football Night in America broadcast team. He's a former first-round pick as well, and he will be on NBC's pregame show, which is one of the top-rated sports studio shows. So that will be a new name, a new face joining the media ranks. And we've seen, athletes have always been a part, but it seems like there is more and more of a movement. I don't know, just more and more guys and maybe it's just the more broadcast. Maybe that's what it is.
I think that the broadcast, more of them, more shows, pregame, postgame, whatever, but also they're getting more and more people on the set than ever before.
There's like 12 guys, like an election show. Yeah.
Remember, Paul, that time when you brought up with me how election show, like on CNN or Fox, whatever, they had bleachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like 12 people. And, oh, well.
Yeah, so that's going on. Devin McCourty will be joining NBC. And meanwhile, I probably should have mentioned this with LeBron at the very beginning, but Carmelo Anthony officially retiring. This actually happened yesterday, but didn't have a spot to squeeze that in, as we don't talk a ton of NBA on here, so this is the right spot for it. Retiring after 19 seasons, and some may best remember him, since we got a lot of college fans on these shows, for his time at Syracuse. As abrupt as it was impactful, as he won a national championship there for the Orangemen. So that's a part of his resume, but also 19 years in the league, one of the best players to do it, and finish his career with over 28,000 points, which means that only Shaq, Wilt, Dirk, MJ, Kobe, Karl Malone, Abdul-Jabbar, and LeBron James scored more points than Carmelo Anthony over the course of their careers, and he is done after 19 seasons.
Hall of Fame career. I will always like him the most for what he did in the run with Syracuse. I just love that team. Something about it. I really enjoy. I'm not otherwise a Syracuse fan, but I always enjoyed that run that he helped them, the one-and-done year to win the national title.
Like that was their last. I mean, the last time that they were really dominant. They've been good at times over the years, but that one was, and it had to be. Kind of at that point, Jim Boeheim was the guy who had never done it. And then he got Carmelo, and they had, who was the other guy? He wore 44. He was so good. They had a couple guys, especially down low. I want to say his name was John something. But
Bill Walton.
No.
John something.
John something.
John
Yeah, but
something.
anyway.
I know it is John something.
Yeah.
It really is, like John Nance or something.
Wallace or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I can't remember. But
Okay.
they were really good, and yeah, that team was fun to watch.
So Carmelo hanging him up after 19 years, a lot of accolades in the NBA, a lot of accolades in the Olympics, and obviously in his 1 year at college, but he's officially done, and he'll have some company sooner rather than later, as his running buddy LeBron will eventually call it quits, but again, I'm not buying that right now. So there's a few things that are off the radar.
McNamara was the other guard that they couldn't. He was really good. He was and I don't see any big, tall drink of waters that they're talking about on the roster. Hakeem Warwick. That's it.
That's it.
He's one that blocked that shot.
John Hakeem Warwick.
Yeah. I always thought for some reason you would have said, where did Hakeem Warwick play? If I wouldn't have said Syracuse, I would have said Florida. Just for some reason. Who'd they beat in that game, Paul?
Did they beat Michigan State?
No.
Why would he ask you that question, Paul?
I don't know. Well, they didn't beat Florida State in the final.
Who they beat, Paul? Syracuse in 2003. It was a great, great win for Syracuse.
In the final?
Yeah.
It wasn't Florida State.
Okay, what means something to you when it comes to men's basketball?
Who's your favorite team?
Yeah.
Oh, they beat Florida? No.
Your favorite
means something.
Who's now you better love them in basketball?
Oh, Kansas.
Favorite team. Yes.
Kansas,
Okay.
sorry.
All right. Just want to make sure we had that correct. When we come back, a lot of teams jumped into NIL very quickly. Baylor had some NIL going on, especially in men's basketball, among some other sports, but have they been playing from behind? Mack Rhodes gets his ears perked up a little bit when he says that. Baylor fans wonder. So Dave Aranda today at his press conference announcing Blake Shapen as the starting quarterback, which we discussed at the start of the show, and we will do some more. Asked about NIL. Is Baylor football in that arena and wanting to do something with it? That is next. This is 365 Sports. DiscoverWoodway.com is a website where you can find the various events that they host at the Carling Bright Arboretum at the Pavilion, and there's not one for maybe another 5 to 6 weeks. So I was going to discuss what they have with Parks and Trails, which is fantastic. If you come to Waco, and for example, if you come to Waco to go to the silos with Chip and Joanna and all that Magnolia stuff, well, there's other things. You've got some hotels in the Woodway area if you can't find one in Waco, which is Waco, Hewitt and Woodway. Pogue Park, which is located on the corner of Pogue Drive and Woodway Drive. Amenities include the pavilion, gazebo, picnic tables, playground, restroom, sand volleyball court, and walking track. Whitehall Park, it's also in the Woodway area with Wolfway Dog Park, great place to have your dogs, walk your dogs, tennis, pickleball courts, gaga ball, a pit, 6 picnic tables, cement volleyball court, lighted pavilion playground, and also a walking track. There's Lakeside Park located on Estates Drive, which is at the end of Estates Drive near Lake Waco. A pavilion lighted with 4 tables, 18-hole disc golf course with a view of the lake, playground equipment, hike and bike trails, and Woodway Activity Park. Same thing. They have a lot of activities, including bathrooms available if, in fact, you have a large group. So that's what you have when it comes to hiking and trails. DiscoverWoodway.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to the water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, before we get to a couple of comments from Dave Aranda when asked about NIL, Barry Trammell from the Oklahoman, we've had Barry on. He has these, I guess, weekly scissors tales. In his scissors tale, and I had somebody alert me to this, and this is not something that has not been discussed on this show, but it's from Barry Trammell. He's got great sources. Talked about Colorado. A Big 12 source told me last week that Colorado is ready to commit to joining the Big 12, in quotes, soon. He said, I thought it was interesting, but not necessarily a revelation. Lots of talk in this realignment-crazed era of college sports, most of it not written on tablets descending from Mount Sinai.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Barry Trammell's not the type to just, at least in my experience, I don't read him religiously or anything like that, but, I mean, he doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's just going to throw out something random like that for no reason and with no real backing to it.
Grizzled old newspaper man.
Yeah, he's an old school dude. So, I mean, there's some meat on that bone for sure. And look, man, like we told you a couple weeks ago, I tried to, say that I had at least opened up more to the idea of things potentially happening because of some things that we had heard, and I don't think that's really changed. I still, feel like the Pac probably pulls it together, but, man, I'm at my lowest percentage at this point. Like, I'm at my lowest confidence, and then just more you just hear little pepperings of things like that aren't coming from, the usual suspects, but Barry Trammell covers the Sooners and Oklahoma State too, but he's going to be covering more SEC games probably than anything. So he doesn't have a reason to really go and stir the pot for no reason at all. So that is very interesting that he said that.
Yeah, and it's on the Oklahoma and their Twitter account, basically what I just said. So that's interesting. Not new news, but a little bit more from a guy like that who he wouldn't just throw against the wall and hope that it sticks. Now, Dave Aranda, earlier today, we have discussed it. We heard from him. Grayson, Paul, Craig, and I have all discussed Blake Shapen as the starting quarterback for Baylor, something Dave Aranda said he would have a decision after the spring game in April, and then it's been a while. He's about to speak tonight in Fort Worth, and so he said, I need to get in front of the local media because this will pop quickly when somebody's there at the I guess, tonight in Fort Worth. So we've discussed that. But also have really never heard him. He said to me during the football season when I asked him, if somebody you were recruiting mentioned NIL immediately, would you continue to recruit that student athlete? And he said, absolutely I would, but we would have to have discussions on exactly what a lot of that means. So I asked him this question today about Baylor football and NIL.
Do you think Baylor's ready to play in the NIL landscape? Is this school prepared to do what it has to do? Do you see that yet?
I do. I think it is getting better. I think from where it, I think our, let me say my philosophy on that is to be in it, and I feel like we're in it, and I feel like when kids come, that is something they bring up, and they want to know what is it can be done, and when we give them kind of our talk and say this is what it is, I think it is a piece of the puzzle for them with the faith and the education and just how they're going to be treated and how, that kind of that hero's journey we talked about. I think those are probably the main pieces of the pie. And then there is the NIL piece, which is a critical one, Now, I believe that piece is getting bigger. And so our ability to kind of grow with that piece, I think for all of us, I'll go this far as speaking for me, but also for all of us, we just don't want the whole pie to be that. And I feel like that is the case in some other spots. And so for us to be us, I think to keep it a piece and stay in it is we're on track to do that.
Now, the other part of it, the follow-up question was about how does he like this NIL? Does he want it where it's equitable, or is it like just for those who have the largest demand?
I've talked with some coaches this off season that talk about it. Whereas if you're an All-American or multiple All-Conference, or if you're a first or second round draft pick, you're getting this much money. That would be a tier. And then if you're a starter, if you're, not on any of the good lists, if you're on all the good, if not on any of the bad lists, but you're on the good list, maybe you're on a poster on I-35 trying to get people to come to the games, you're on tier 2. Then tier 3 would be, hey, you're on the team, you don't embarrass the team, here's a little something for you to be on the team. And I just think, if you do it that way, I wonder, what does that do for team chemistry? What does that do for frankly, I don't think we have anyone in Tier 1 anyways, And so I just don't know what that does for, who's making the decisions, who's Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, right? What's the organization for communicating that to the players and their families? And, if it is truly person over player, how does that play into, hey, this player makes more money than this other player, and I could do that, but you're not giving me the opportunity. And I don't know. I just think it's a disruptor, I feel, and I don't know if it necessarily needs to go that path. And so I look at it more as here's something that everyone on the team gets, and we're able to kind of build from there. And so, but that's a good one. It's becoming more and more of a topic, because I have to imagine doing it in the tier way is possibly a less expensive way.
You have Texas Tech that did the $25,000, and then also that includes some walk-ons. And when that came out, I was like, that's brilliant. Everybody wins, even those who are walk-on players, depending on, I guess, how many. I think it was brilliant with what they did at Tech. And to me, that would be the way that would be less disruptive. But if you have, and I thought he was incredibly honest, that really they don't have like one of those like mega type guys that's going to get whatever those numbers we see reported across the board.
No, I also think it's especially for people who aren't, swimming in the big pool yet, overall, it's the best way to do it and approach it, because when somebody does get into what would be that tier 1 status where they're in demand for NIL, then they kind of go and are like, everybody's getting this, and you're kind of earning it by your play on the field, where now you are creating that value. I think that more importantly, the way to steer this is going to be through constant roster retention, so you don't have to re-recruit your own players all the time, that they're going to be taken care of and good. And then, look, if you are good enough, if you are Bryce Young, if you are the Joe Burrow types, or, the guys like, we talked about yesterday, like Quinshon Judkins. Yeah, you know what? Quinshon Judkins going to be in demand, and he's going to make a little bit more money because he's going to have other places where he's more valuable to that as far as endorsements or social media goes, because he has more of a following. But it's not something where I told the two running backs recruited at the same time that this one's worth more and this one's worth less, even though they may, the numbers may say differently. So I think it's better to do it the Texas Tech way, and then anything above that, you're in some regards hunting for your own meat.
Well, the Texas Tech way is also a great way to it's basically doing the Nebraska walk-ons program, but in a totally different way, but you're getting the same benefit. You're paying 35 walk-ons $25K a piece. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, you're adding – those aren't just your typical walk-on guys. I would have to imagine there's probably some scouting that went into those walk-ons, and, there are various options. So it's brilliant if you can do it, but not everybody has just $3 million lying around to burn on just simple roster-based salary. And if you do have that, like in Lubbock or wherever else they have that, then that's a great tool to have. But I guess the next best thing would be just not have that at all, and so everybody's still on the same playing field. But, yeah, I mean, it sounds like a problem he hadn't really had to deal with just yet in the grand scheme of things, but one that's not going to go away. And, I don't know that there's any donor, on the verge of, hey, here's $3 million, everybody gets $25,000, including 35 walk-ons or whatever. It doesn't appear to be the case. So, is that what creates the separation nowadays, as opposed to, just making the right hire, running the right scheme, just finding ways to win football games? It might be where the edge comes in nowadays. It certainly appears that there are, certainly a lot of advantages that are coming via NIL programs that aren't necessarily winning at a high level or able to land players they normally probably wouldn't get because of the NIL piece of it. So, yeah, I mean, it's something to monitor and something to make note of. And he's absolutely right. Like, if he had said, well, we got one guy who's making 50, I would have been like, who? Because they don't really have a superstar type of player at the moment, at least. Now, if you had gone back a couple years and they'd had your Petries and, maybe a JT Woods or an Abram Smith or those types of guys, even still, like, maybe only Petrie's really like give this guy $50,000 and, he gets it for being a great football player.
Yeah, because Abrams' big year was his last year. So it'll been.
Well, that was the same year.
Yeah, I know.
That was when they won it.
Well, Petrie had already kind of established himself, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, he broke out that final year too.
Yeah.
If you think about it, that was really Jalen's big final year. That all that came together beautifully. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine Aranda's had to go to the well a few times and say like, hey, we need this and we need that. But if there's not, a big fish that's going to become swimming in anytime soon, it just leaves you with a lot of things to try and figure out and how to best balance that. And, I'm sure he's clearly put a lot of thought into it, but I don't know what you do. And I don't know what you do, especially if they arrive at a point where that suddenly becomes like the main thing. How does person over player interact with that? Because right now it doesn't seem like it's the main thing necessarily for a lot of the guys they're pursuing. But it could be, and when it does become that, how do you adjust to that?
All right, so earlier today we mentioned UCF had unveiled a couple of helmets. I showed one of them that had the Knights on the side of the helmet, and I did not show both. Garrett, is that something you have now? So I wanted to go back to that. We had somebody ask about. So here are the two different helmets. There's the one on the left.
That's the same one on the left and right.
That's the one on the left, on the right. That's right. The one on the left is the same on the far right. They also have a little bit more of a toned down edge to it with Knights on the side, that they'll have those helmets for 2023. There's Gus Malzahn, the tweet on the left-hand side.
Yeah, the one in the middle is just the same one, though, on the left and the right is the new one. And then there's the one that Garrett showed earlier that had the Knights in the script. That is also a part of that as well. But, yeah, the UCF is in that gold and, looks cool. And, getting some new threads for Big 12 play ought to be cool to see them break those out, which they will. So, yeah, that's neat. And, can't wait to see what the Knights bring to the table here pretty soon.
All right, we appreciate you every day here on 365 Sports. And we'll be on again tomorrow. Now, Paul, you want to let everyone know about the rest of the week or so?
Yeah.
Because I'm not the one making this decision. I think it's bad.
Thanks for that. That's a great lead-in. That's almost like the time.
It's leadership.
That's like the time that Andrew Baker made a Hitler open for his birthday, and I had to explain that away on the air.
Thank God I wasn't around.
No, yeah,
you
were
had
off
to explain it to him.
Well, yeah, I was like, look, man, I get you're kind of kidding around, but like, I don't know who's all going to get this. It's kind of an inside joke, and you've now like, hey, Hitler.
How about we're doing a Baylor pregame show? Texas had beaten Oklahoma for one of the few times in a long time, and he started out the Baylor pregame show with the Eyes of Texas.
Yeah,
remember that?
That one was not great either.
That didn't go over very well.
It was like he was a troll or something.
Yes,
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, he is. He's a human troll.
He's very proud of it. He's watching this right now. He knows. I love Andrew dearly. He's great. But he did cause me a lot of headaches. But no, we have to do some in-studio maintenance. We did this last year for a couple days where we need to really rework some things, and doing it in a fashion where we would rush through to try to get done for the show during the day is kind of irresponsible, because we're going to make some strides here and make it easier for us to do Zooms. So we have to test out quite a bit of things and rework a lot of wires and whatnot. So we're going to be shut down on Thursday and Friday. We're going to take Monday off anyway because it's Memorial Day and we always do. So we will not be on for the next couple days. So enjoy an extended Memorial Day weekend without the obligation to watch us, but be back on Tuesday.
Now, so we'll shut it down Thursday, Friday, and Monday. But if something pops, that is, especially if it's anything college football related as far as realignment, if it does, we don't expect it to, we will be here for you at that particular time. All right?
And by something pops, you don't mean like if West Virginia announces their starting quarterback, all due respect. You mean like the Pac-12 falls off a cliff and, there's vultures start circling.
Or they announce their new deal and everything's fine.
Or they announce their new deal, yeah.
All right, so there we are with that.
Yeah, and to go back to the NIL thing, I was mentioning the tech part of it. I mean, they've got some great momentum right now, which I think is obvious, but that is, a pretty big donation that I don't think you can expect to see across the country. So it'll be very interesting to see how Joey McGuire is able to really fully weaponize that. I mean, to have, because the thing about Nebraska is they did benefit from their walk-ons program and the way that was set up. And then when they could no longer, well, I don't think it's, coincidental entirely that they're kind of started the downturn, coincided with that. And so, if Tech's able to use NIL not only to keep the whole locker room happy, but also then get the benefit of, like, if 5 of those walk-ons end up being basically the equivalent of scholarship players, then, I mean, now you're really cooking with, with gas. So they've shaped that up really well. They got high expectations coming into this year, but they've really got it solidly built up on the NIL side of things, and we'll see if that's, what ultimately pushes them to the top of the conference here in this new era. But things are shaping up nicely, and there's clearly a lot of excitement moving into next year. So
we'll have
big things.
We'll have Mac tomorrow. Mac Rhodes, Baylor Director of Athletics. He wasn't available today. You have him tomorrow. So we'll have that. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, is next on 365 Sports. So I spoke with Samantha Duvall. Aaron Duvall's the owner of TexasBeefHouse.com, a family-owned, farm-raised Wagyu beef. And they have all of it. I've tasted it. We have had it here in the studio. I've cooked some hamburgers that they sent to me. But they have bundles, no, not like for cable, but for what you want coming up on Memorial Day around the corner, maybe 4th of July, or just for any kind of family get-togethers, or for you and what you want. Their best-selling family bundle, I got this from Samantha, the Wagyu Sampler Bundle, a variety of all of their hamburger patties, products, jalapeno and cheese patties, ground beef, summer sausage, and garlic links. It's what I had sent to me, along with a lot more, including some New York strips and also ribeyes. Delicious. I shared it with the staff, some of it with the staff. Another family bundle is what they call the Great Divide package. It's total of 20 pounds. It's a mix of hamburger patties and ground beef. And then lastly, the jalapeno and cheese Great Divide. The package is 20 pounds total, mixture of jalapeno and cheese patties and also ground beef. Now, yes, you absolutely need and should order what they have when it comes to Wagyu steaks, whether it's New York strip or ribeyes or more. They have all of that. It's TexasBeefHouse.com, TexasBeefHouse.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at sportsradio610.com.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us, 610 in Houston, and also on numerous stations around the country because he is a go-to when it comes to the NFL and also just a damn good guy. John, thanks for your time. So the NFL, they've got these decisions they've made. Obviously, Lambeau's going to host the NFL draft. They got the kickoff rule. They got the third quarterback rule. Which of them intrigues you or maybe perked your attention the most?
Well, of the things you just mentioned, and thank you for the introduction, I think it's great that they're going to have the draft in Green Bay, going to have it in and around Lambeau Field, which is the cathedral in the NFL. I tell everybody, if you're going to go 2 places and you're a pro football fan, and you don't have to be a pro football fan, go to Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame, and then go to Lambeau for the Packers. And I've never been anywhere in the NFL where I was treated better than you are in Green Bay. And that's the way it is for everybody because they love for fans to come in out of town so they can show off their field, the museum, and their hospitality. So it's going to be great. I can't wait till the draft is actually in Canton. You know, they call Cleveland Canton. Well, that's not right. You know, I don't like that. It's either in Cleveland or it's in Canton, and it should be in Canton. These new rules changes, they have neutered the kickoff, but they have to. There's too many injuries that came from kickoffs. It was great in the old days where you might have 102 or 3 yard kickoff returns and these monstrous collisions and wedge busters would go flying like Superman into these blocking formations, but there were too many injuries. I saw 2 guys here have to retire because of partial paralysis suffered on kickoff returns. So even though they've made it more boring, like the onside kick, you know, there's still plenty of excitement in the NFL, but I certainly understand that as far as the kickoff rule. Don't like it, but I understand it.
John, the sale of the Commanders, they said all the right things. Do you about it's going through and all that? But they did ask Roger Goodell about D.C., and he was a little bit non-committal on that. Do you think the owners want them to be in D.C. proper, or that the owners really care?
Owners don't give a rat's you-know-what, Paul. Yeah. They just want the money. Mm-hmm. It's just like if you think people ask about Jacksonville. If Jacksonville were playing in London at, say, Wembley Stadium or at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which built 5 years ago to NFL standards, they would be making so much more money than they're making in Jacksonville. They could jack up the ticket prices. Their tickets are sold in like 2 minutes. They would be making a lot more. So if they're making a lot more, the NFL's making a lot more. And we all know the NFL's close to going into the poorhouse, and they need all the money that they can get. So they don't care. Now, when FedEx Field was built, I was there. I was covering the NFL. It was grand. It was, I think Snyder got it where he could put 80 to 85,000 people in there. I'm surprised he didn't pay to sit on the toilet, and so he could count that as among his ticket sales. And then because he let the franchise go down the toilet, they had to reduce the capacity, and it was embarrassing. And he didn't do anything to the stadium. It was terrible. The parking lot was terrible. It's one of the most storied franchises in the history of sports, and what he did to it is just criminal. Now, he was never going to get a new stadium, but the new owner, I believe that Josh Harris's group, they would have had some assurances from the government that they could get a stadium down in the district, back in the area of RFK Stadium, where they want to build it, before they're going to shell out $6.05 billion for the franchise. It's only a matter of time. Has there ever been an owner in any sport who takes over and is automatically going to be as popular and as appreciated as the Josh Harris group because of who they're replacing?
Yeah, hard to imagine. They throw a parade for Josh Harris as far as I'm concerned, and I'm one of those that's been disgruntled for a while now, and I'm glad to see some change, John. We did have a major passing in the sports world and in pro football with Jim Brown passing away earlier this week. John, any, in all your experiences, all the events, the committees, everything like that, any interactions with Jim Brown, thoughts on his legacy, his time in football, and all that goes with that?
I started really paying close attention to pro football in 1960 when I was 8 years old. My dad was such a fanatical football fan. They had the NFL on CBS, and the new AFL was on NBC. And the AFL was exciting. They threw the ball around like crazy. The Oilers won the first two championships, took the Dallas Texans double overtime in the third one. The Cowboys were awful, had a tie. They 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But it was pro football. And back then, the Eagles were the champions in 60. The Packers went on a run of 5 in a row, including back-to-back Super Bowls and the first 2 Super Bowls. But one player out of all the Hall of Famers stood out, and that was Jim Brown. He was 6'2", and he was 230, and he could run. And he didn't block. A lot of people criticized him because he didn't block. Who did he need to block for? He got the ball all the time. And he used to get cheap shotted so much, the things they could do to players back then, and he broke so many tackles. And every time he got tackled, he got up really slow, like he was hurt. And somebody asked him, why do you get up so slow? And he said, because when I really am hurt, I don't want the defenses to know it because I'm going to get even more cheap shots. But he never complained about it. And Jim Brown's notoriety, respect, popularity transcended sports. And one reason was he was an activist. And if you were an activist for civil rights, like Muhammad Ali, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was Lou Alcindor, and Jim Brown, white people didn't like it. They just didn't like it. And Brown didn't care, just like Ali didn't care. Jabbar didn't care. They were doing what they thought was right for their race, and that their contributions to civil rights will be recognized, appreciated, and respected because of everything they went through to do it. Because as you guys, well, y'all weren't old enough, 1960 was a tumultuous time in our country. Mm-hmm. You had riots, you had Bobby Kennedy assassinated, Martin Luther King assassinated. 1968 was the worst non-World War II or World War I year in our country's history. I tell people there's never been a year like 1968. Google it. And so guys like Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali, they believed in what they stood for. And the first time I met him, had a chance to meet him, was at a memorabilia convention here, TriStar Productions. And I was behind the scenes doing stories. One of the owners said, "You want to meet Jim Brown?" I said, "Sure." And as I got close to him, and I was looking at him from behind, and all these people were lined up, I said, whoa, wait a minute. I got intimidated by Jim Brown. He's the only, since I was a kid, some of the Cowboys used to come down to Waco, make appearances, and my dad would always take them to me, and I thought I'd seen God. first time I saw Tom Landry, I couldn't have been more captivated if the Lord had come down to shake my hand. But Jim Brown intimidated me, and no reason. It wasn't anything he did. It was just me, I guess, thinking about all the times I had seen him. Plus, he had the first interracial love scene, and he got to do it with Raquel Welch, who was just about the hottest woman on the planet. And that movie was 100 Rifles, and I think I've seen it 50 times. And it's amazing. Art Modell, who was a new owner, got mad because he was filming a movie. And he told him, look, you need to get back here for off-season program, training camp, and give up that movie business. So he said, or retire. He said, okay. He called his bluff. I'll retire. He finished The Dirty Dozen, which is still one of my favorite war movies. And when he got killed in it, I got teary-eyed.
John, I was going to ask you where you rank The Dirty Dozen, which he did a lot of movies. I don't know if anything was maybe overall better than The Dirty Dozen.
Oh, I think The Dirty Dozen was, and 100 Rifles was so famous because I thought it was a good movie. Jim Brown was at his best when he was not the star. You know, he wasn't a great actor, but he was pretty good, but he was Jim Brown. And so The Dirty Dozen, which had an ensemble of great actors at the time, it was a great way for him to start his movie career. And I'm just sorry they killed him off.
John, I'm glad you admitted what you said about Jim Brown. I was lucky enough to interview him. I think it was twice on Radio Row. I brought this up in a phone segment with the guys on Friday when I was off that afternoon. He is the only one. I got a little googly over Joe Gibbs because of my Redskins Washington franchise fandom, but not Landry, not Larry Holmes or anyone else, but Jim Brown. When Jeff Wood came around the corner and said, hey, Jim Brown's on his way, I gulped. Like I had, because it was like, and you know what was great about it? He was fantastic. And we discussed some of the issues in America. He was fantastic. It wasn't about Jim Brown. It was him being who he is. And I'm glad you admitted that because, you know, we try not to, but I did. I was a little bit, oh, my God. And I was ready, thank God. But I just, you know, he was that kind of, I had that aura about him.
Well, I can appreciate that. At one time, the Browns were in town to play the Oilers, and I went to their hotel to pick up a good friend of mine, Tony Grossi, who still covers them. And as he was walking out, Brown's standing there, and I'm like wide-eyed, my mouth's agape, and I see Jim go, hey, Tony, how you doing? And Tony goes, great, Jim, see you at the stadium. Tony gets in the car, and I said, you know Jim Brown? He goes, yeah. I said, holy bleep. You just spoke to Jim Brown? He goes, yeah, what's the big deal? He works for the Browns. He's there all the time. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. John, thank you very much. Did we ask you last week about the NFL playoff game streaming only? Did we get into that last week with you?
I can't remember if you did or not. I don't like it. I won't watch it unless the Texans win it, but the local teams are going to get it over the air anyway, and the Texans certainly won't be in the playoffs. But I don't like it, but it's a sign of times to come because, as I mentioned, those poor NFL owners, they're almost down on the corners with their hands out begging for money because they never get enough.
They cannot pay their electric bill. Thank you, John. We appreciate your time. Hall of Fame
columnist.
Thank
you, guys. Second.
Hall of Fame columnist, Houston 610, and a part of our segment with us most every Tuesday around the 5:30 segment. Sometimes Houston, Texans, NFL notes get in the way, and we appreciate his time.
Well, they get in the way. NFL notes?
Huh?
You said they got in the way?
No, they get in the way of him coming on the show. In a way because of his job.
They got in the way of like a different conversation about the Dirty Dozen or something. No. Okay, I got you now.
But by the way, I'm sure a lot of our audience has, but if you've not seen The Dirty Dozen, it is absolutely awesome.
Even in this day.
It's so awesome.
So that was filmed in what, the 60s?
Yeah, 1967, I believe. Maybe a little before that. Let me look it up.
It wasn't black and white though, was it? It was colored? No. Okay. All right.
No, but it was. I'm going to
say 63 or 64.
It was 1967. Okay. It was 1967, and it is
about 2 years before all hell broke loose in Hollywood and around the country.
But look, the top people in this movie. Lee Marvin, who's a legendary actor.
Stud.
Ernest Borgnine, legendary actor.
God, I loved him.
Charles Bronson, who was the first real action star, like where it was just, he was a badass action star.
Yep.
Jim Brown, John Cassavetes, whose family's done a lot of different things. George Kennedy was in it. Telly Savalas, who was Kojak.
Yeah.
So it was a really good, and a lot of other actors. If you're like a movie buff, like maybe you would, but those are the ones that people would recognize the most.
When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5. Don't forget tonight, Sports Tonight at 10:30 on the CW. Emery Winter is putting all that together, and a lot of it will have a large dose of Baylor and Dave Aranda announcing the starting quarterback is Blake Shapen as they head into the summer. Sports Tonight presented by Rooftop Innovations. We put your roof above everything else. This is 365 Sports.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef, and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have, a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
We did running backs on Monday. Today, we'll do wide receivers, top 5 lethal wide receivers coming back in 2023. 2 of these guys are from the same school. There are Ohio State, and I'll just tell you, Ohio State and Washington, a lot of the schools that are on this list are going to be tough to cover, but one of them is from two schools, or one school, and that's because they're just so darn good, and shouldn't be a surprise who it is. But number 5, a team that could have 2, Rome Odunze from Washington. This dude is really good. He was second only to Marvin Harrison Jr. in one-on-one coverage last year, 605 yards receiving in one-on-one coverage last year in man-to-man. So if you were going to try to man him up, you're probably going to lose. Touchdown machine, really, really good player. They have, and I'm blanking his name all of a sudden. I had it in
quarterback.
I have Michael Penix, but they have, I want to say his first name's Jaleel, but their other wide receiver is really, really fantastic too. Washington is going to be somebody to be reckoned with, and I do think that they are going to really contend for that Pac-12 title all year long because of Penix and everything else they've got going. They've got a very deep offense. Their defense kind of undid them a little bit at times last year. We'll see if they've improved that. But this is a wide receiver you do not want to man up because he is probably going to beat you.
Yeah, he's a really good player. Are you thinking of Jalen McMillan?
Jalen McMillan, thank you. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, he got a touchdown in the bowl game against Texas. No one went off. Odunze had 57 on 5, and then McMillan had 8 catches, 58 and a score.
Well, I mean, they also have Jalen Polk, who was a freshman last year.
Kid, right?
He's from East Texas, and so, they are super stout, and plus having Penix back, and I don't know, I don't feel like they're really being overlooked, but it kind of still feels like they're being overlooked somehow. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I mean, it's the Pac-12's crowded. When you've got Oregon, you've got USC, you got Utah, who's won it 2 years in a row. All the quarterbacks are coming back. So, you can probably – and because you've got the least well-known coach among those 4 probably in Kalen DeBoer, you're probably going to fall to the back of the pack. But, I see they're not overlooked, but they're in a thick conversation for the Pac-12 title.
Yeah, I just don't think they're in that top tier. They're in a thick conversation for the Pac-12 title and maybe a playoff spot. But, I mean, they've got so much coming back, especially, they're on offense surrounding Penix, that it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they are able to do with it all. But, he's a great player. He's got probably the coolest hair in college football, and this dawned on me last year if you look at his profile picture, and I don't know if it's still the same as it was, but just like super bleach blonde hair, just like, I don't know, it was a cool looking style that I don't typically see all that often, but he was rocking it and it looked pretty cool, and doesn't hurt that he's also a badass football player as well. But they had a pair of 1,000-yard receivers and Polk on top of that, so they're going to be loaded.
And the year before he had 13. No, I'm sorry, I was looking at touchdowns. He had 7 touchdowns. And Penix is one of those that dinks and dunks, but he'll beat you over the top on it. He had threw 55 passes against Texas. And he's kind of like different when you watch him throw. Maybe it's because he's left-handed, but, man, they do have a lot of people back.
Yeah. Number 4, Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. This is the first Ohio State guy on the list. I bet you can all guess who the next one is. But this is the most lethal duo in the country at Ohio State, between him and Marvin Harrison Jr., who's on the list, and we'll get into that later. But it's good news for whoever the quarterback winds up being there, if it's McCord or Brown at Ohio State. And they're going to be good on offense. Ryan Day didn't get in the portal for a quarterback, which lets me know, as much as Ohio State fans are scared about the future of Ryan Day and what it could be because he's lost to Michigan twice and all that, I will say this. If he did not go in the portal scrambling for a quarterback, to me it means he feels pretty good about what he's got sitting there on the roster.
Yeah.
And I will give Ryan Day on quarterbacks the benefit of the doubt, considering the last 2 he's put through there, Justin Fields and C.J. Stroud, came out pretty darn good.
Yeah, they did come out pretty good. But, Buka's a great player, only overshadowed by the other great player in that same wide receiver room, which we'll get to, as you said. But, they're as good as anybody at acquiring and compiling wide receiver talent. And that's not going to change this year now. They might have other schools like Washington, for example, with that 3-headed monster they have that can at least compete and have an argument over, who's standing tall at the end. But, just on paper, they've got – over 2,000 yards receiving and like 24 touchdowns coming back with their top 2 receivers with him and who's to come. So, and that's not counting, the rest of the room.
Yeah.
That's just 2 guys that basically eclipsed like most output by an entire team of receivers across the country. So yeah, I mean that's been probably as good of a recruiting job as any out there, right? Would you say position wise, like who's done the best job of recruiting a specific position over the last, however many years? You'd have to say Ohio State and wide receivers, like right there in that top of that conversation.
Yeah, that's Brian Hartline, who's absolutely crushing it for them there. Number 3. Johnny Wilson from FSU.
Homer pick.
Well, you know what? He's 6'7". He runs like a deer. Go ahead and try and cover him.
Yesterday you bumped a damn good running back for some guy that's a running back at Florida State.
Well, another damn good running back. Yeah, Johnny Wilson.
But it is your top 5.
It's my top 5. I'm going to tell you, Johnny Wilson, going to be the biggest matchup nightmare in the country because, he is so tall and he's so fast. Now, he'll drop one every now and again, but – man, if you saw how he closed the year and how dominant he was, he is really something special. And I haven't even looked at the chat room. Paxton, before you ask, Xavier Worthy is not on this list, and I will tell you why. He was not really all in last year for Texas, and I think Texas fans know that.
He had a hand injury.
Yeah, but there was a little bit of. Maybe not emotionally all in. I think he will be different this year, but that's why he's not on the list.
Well, what the addition of Mitchell, Nayor is healthy, and now Worthy, he's they're going to be explosive.
Well, he's going to have his head in it if he didn't previously, because if he doesn't, then there's other guys to go catch the footballs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's up to Xavier Worthy how much he wants to be a part of that. But, yeah, he was dealing with, it seemed like, I don't know, something personally, and then injury-wise as well, and that it all kind of added up, and a new quarterback too. Yeah. Trying to find his footing. But Johnny Wilson, I think there's a lot of room for him to be better. I don't think that you look at his numbers, especially compared to the other guys that we've seen popped up, and he's not top of the list. But athletic attributes and potential and things like that. The team itself, he should be a focal point for them, and had some huge play. Had a huge bowl game against Oklahoma. That wasn't real fun to watch.
Hell of a game too.
Yeah, it was a great game. It was a bad result for me, but he was fun to watch during that one, and it's super talented guy.
Did that game last year in whatever that was, the Citrus Bowl, whatever they call it, does that help overcome the 2000?
No.
One
was for a national championship.
I know. I'm just kidding. Paxton's having water intrusion.
Oh, wow.
And so he's got some issues right now, so he's not paying attention, but then he is. So.
I get it. I do think, and here's the other thing, FSU and their wide receiver core this year, they just got Keon Coleman from Michigan State. They already have Kentron Portier there, who is really, really good and tall. So they are going to be with Jaheim Bell at tight end. They're going to be a matchup nightmare physically for a lot of teams. I'm curious to see how they roll it out and how teams cover them because they've got big, tall wide receivers that, you're not just going to have a bunch of 6'4" cornerbacks.
We don't need a scouting report.
I'll just tell you. So, number 2. We're
going to have to deal with them being good again.
Malik Neighbors from LSU. This guy's the next one. He's the next one. And
oh, my God.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what Nebraska wide receiver is number 1 on here to cover all our bases.
Trey Palmer's gone, so we can't.
Boy, he was good, too.
Yeah. And a real bright spot for them last year. But Malik Neighbors, Garrett, he's really, really, really good. And helped, kind of make up for that. We've talked about it before. Like I mentioned, Jeray Jenkins last week is a guy that they're going to miss because he really helped up and be reliable for when Kayshon Boutte was, in his feelings.
Yeah.
And then Malik Neighbors kind of made you forget that Kayshon Boutte had to even be there because he was that good. The bowl game, if you want to just go watch highlights, of course, they ran through, in the bowl game. But if you want to watch Malik Neighbors just feast, go watch that game.
When has LSU ever developed wide receivers that became pros?
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's super talented. He was not a guy that you really talked about or made note of. LSU fans probably talked about him, but the last 6 weeks of the season, basically, last 6 games of the season really
when he turned it on,
kind of blew up. And Got to stay out of trouble. That's a big thing. Got arrested earlier this year. Had the gun charge shortly after the season wrapped up. I think it was like in February.
Mardi Gras. It was Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras. Okay, thank you. Got to avoid those types of things. But just another super talented, ultra talented LSU wide receiver who's a freak athlete and can do everything. So yeah.
Top 5 for Paul. This is an idea. The hottest teams coming off of last year. Not like Georgia's like. We've seen the surge of Florida State, the surge of LSU with Brian Kelly, which started a little slow because of the loss. Just a thought.
I don't think it's a bad one. I think,
Well, thank you.
I think if not for the bowl game, I would have put Texas on that list as well. But that's kind of a different.
True.
Yeah, I think with Neighbors, like we've seen him now for a couple years. He's very good. I don't know that I would put him necessarily production-wise ahead of some of the other guys on this list because they've done a bit more and proven a bit more, but he has the capability of doing all of those same things and being, one of, if not the best guys out there for sure.
Or the top overrated teams.
Yeah, I also had to kind of separate the Ohio State guys, just so it wasn't.
And the Washington guys.
Just so it wasn't a Valentine to Ohio
I get
State.
it, yeah. I think he's more of like his best is still yet to come, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, especially with one more year with Jaden Daniels, a quarterback, number 1. And this guy is I'm going to put him number 1 in like a large gap because he is so unbelievably good with the blood. But Marvin Harrison Jr., last year, they had a pretty good wide receiver coming back that everybody thought was going to be great and was out all year with a hamstring injury. And Marvin Harrison Jr., until the Michigan game, he really forgot that was a problem.
Yeah, he and Egbuka, they had basically almost similar stats. It's crazy. Because someone had to pick up the slack from Smith and Jigba. Man, and he's just a alpha with his father and lineage. And, he's a different guy. He's a different breed.
By the way, we are 1 subscriber away from 30,000.
Okay.
I'm gonna unsubscribe.
Go ahead, Craig. You were going to add something?
No,
Craig was going to subscribe.
No, go ahead.
I swear there's people that do that, though. Like, I used to feel that way. I'd be like, I'm on the cusp of 5,000 followers. I'm like at 499.9, and then like 5 people would unfollow me. It'd take like 2 weeks to get it back. But no, I mean that's awesome that we're right there on the verge. So if somebody wants to put us over the top, that would be welcome. But freak show, it's crazy. We were just watching his daddy not that long ago, doing his thing and being a freak show in the NFL, and here comes his son, who's like just every bit as athletic and talented, and probably even more so, whose best is yet to come, like a lot of guys on this list. But yeah, he's the real deal. He's what you want and what you look for in a premier college football wide receiver, and he's going to put on a show this year, I have no doubt.
4 inches taller, it appears, than his father, and about 15 pounds heavier, and then also grew up in the football love of watching. Man,
he's the upgrade.
Yeah.
He's 2.0.
His dad was Syracuse.
Yep, absolutely.
Big time guy from.
Did he play with Donovan McNabb?
I
not sure about the time.
But he was in a Hall of Famer and all that. So,
all right, Paul.
Those are a handful of really great players. I mean, and so much fireworks in store, I think, from those 5 guys, and there's a few others that you could debate on there as well. But man, there's those 4 teams too are going to have very interesting years upcoming as well, and those guys are a big part of that.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Also, there was one comment, and it's now been blown away by Barry Crawford. If you don't have an arrest, are you allowed to start in the SEC?
It helps. It definitely helps your resume.
My favorite program was Elite when they had guys getting in trouble with the law. I mean, I think you have to have that. I'm telling you. You got to have some of them on the edge. You just hope not too far on the edge, with all due respect. All right. Thank you, Graham, Emery, Levi, Garrett, and my best buddy, Jack McKenzie, for being a part of everything that we do here on 365 Sports. Our sports are,
Jack, I just want the screens like right here. Is that where you're planning on those flat screens right here in the desk?
He spent the night with me on Wednesday, or the evening, excuse me. All right, sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. Again, Rooftop Innovations, one of our newest sponsors. We appreciate them and all of our sponsors. For Paul and Craig, back tomorrow. Barry Switzer, Mac Rhodes, Max Olson, and more. Good night. I'm David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.